I have seen way too many dramas about real and fake heirs. So, the moment I returned to this wealthy family, I looked straight at my 4 sisters who were coddling the fake young master and said, "If you do not want to treat me as your brother, I won't treat you as sisters. Since you only care about Muzhuan, he is your only brother. Keep him if you want. Just do not bother me." My words made all 4 sisters turn pale, while Dad and Peizueru got anxious and upset. Seeing Peizueru's sad face, I sighed. "You and Dad shouldn't overthink this. Since I chose to return, it means I truly accept you as my parents. But only you. I am not going to kiss anyone's feet. I am the noble lord of Wangxi City. Others have always fawned over me. When have I ever had to swallow my pride to please people? Since I occupied Muchan's body, I accepted his karma. Dad and Peizueru are genuinely good to me, so I will show them filial respect and treat them as my real parents. As for everyone else, we'll see." A sudden gasp broke the heavy silence at the table. Everyone looked over. Muzhuan was sobbing with red eyes, saying, "Dad, Mom, sisters, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Brother, please don't blame them." Before he could even finish his act, I cut him off. "Enough, stop whining. Are you acting in a drama? You might love performing, but I do not have time to watch. What do you want? If it's such a big deal, I will leave so you can all be happy." I made a move to get up. My words left Muzhuan flushed and speechless. "Zhao Chun, you child. What nonsense are you talking about? This is your real family. How can you just leave?" Peizueru quickly grabbed my wrist, terrified I would actually walk out. "This will always be your home. You can do whatever you like here. Absolutely anything. No one in this house has the right to judge you." She glared at her daughters, silently cursing them. Dad also shot them a harsh look. "Exactly. You are the master of this house. If anyone does not like it, they can get lost. From now on, however you want to live comfortably, just do it. Let's see who dares to say a word." I was quite pleased with their attitude. At least they knew what mattered. If they had favored the adopted son and forced me to suffer, my attitude toward them in the future would have been cold. Muzhuan looked utterly miserable, probably wishing he could vanish right then. But he did not have the guts. He wasn't the precious young heir anymore, just an adopted kid living under someone else's roof. The realization must have stung. Peizueru looked at Muzhuan and patted his shoulder. "Zhao Zhuan, do not cry. Didn't we talk about this? Zhao Chun is Zhao Chun, and you are you. There is no conflict. Just stay at home, in peace." Muzhuan kept sobbing. I just feel so guilty." I paused, mid-bite, and sighed. "Are you seriously not done yet? You say you are sorry, but I do not see you packing your bags. Since you chose to stay, stop playing the victim. It is really gross. And I am not your brother, so call me by my name." I saw right through his little game. He wanted to play the fragile victim so everyone would pity and protect him. Too bad for him. That cheap trick does not work on me. If he wants to act, fine. But if he pushes his luck and does not know his place, I won't hesitate to ruin him, parents or not. Muzhuan's face froze, looking like he'd just been slapped in public. He flushed a red furious inside but unable to speak. He was probably about to explode, but he could not throw a tantrum here. Since I had laid it out so bluntly, playing the victim now would just make him look pathetic. Muyue, the youngest and most hot-tempered sister, immediately got ready to speak up for him, but Mu Wanting held her back. Wanting looked at me from across the table, her eyes filled with curiosity. She must have realized I wasn't the pushover they expected. Her eyes flickered as she spoke up. "Welcome back to this family. What Mom and Dad said is right. This is your home now. Just do whatever makes you comfortable and ignore everyone else. Today was our mistake. We didn't think you and Dad would arrive so soon, which is why we went out. Please don't take it the wrong way. We really are happy to have you home." I gave her a cold glance and said nothing. Seeing his eldest daughter finally step up, Dad looked a bit relieved and ordered the servants to serve the food. They had prepared a massive feast today, covering every flavor profile since they did not know what I liked. Then Mu Wanting broke the silence, asking in a seemingly casual tone, "By the way, Zhao Chun, where did you live before? What about your old family?" She tried to play it cool, but Dad's face instantly hardened. Spotting this, Wanting pressed on. "Dad, why the silence? Is there something we shouldn't know? We are family now. Our brother's past is our business too. There is really no need to keep secrets. Well, so much for a peaceful dinner. If you want to know so badly, just ask me," I said, dabbing my mouth with a napkin. I was adopted by an old Taoist priest and grew up in a rundown temple. It was built on a remote, barren mountain. Conditions were terrible, and we barely got any visitors. Master and I struggled just to eat. I never went to a real school. My master taught me how to read and write. I barely ever left that mountain. 3 months ago, my master passed away of old age, leaving me entirely alone. I stayed there until Dad tracked me down and brought me here. I paused for a second before adding, "The temple is permanently closed now that I am gone. Though if I ever feel like going back, I can always return to that lifestyle." I summarized my entire life in just a few words, keeping my tone perfectly flat. No complaints, no self-pity, and definitely no resentment toward fate. But Mom and Dad looked devastated, their eyes pooling with tears. Even the sisters sat there in stunned silence. They probably never imagined that their own flesh and blood, who should have been spoiled rotten as the Mu family's heir, had lived like a stray. Even Yue looked guilty, realizing she'd been way out of line. Muzhuan, though, was panicking. He immediately pegged me as a master manipulator, who was playing the pity card on purpose. He opened his mouth to apologize out of habit, but remembering my warning, he choked the words back down. Instead, he tried a different, supposedly clever approach. Zhao-chun, now that you are home, things will get much better. It must be hard adjusting, so please let me know if you need anything. I will do whatever I can to help. If you do not mind, I can show you around so you can get used to the city. Sure, thanks, I replied flatly. Mom squeezed my hand tightly, her eyes swimming with guilt and grief. I patted her hand. Mom, I am fine. Honestly, my past was pretty great. Sure, things were tough, but the temple was peaceful, and Master spoiled me. I had a happy childhood. I wasn't lying about that part. The real Mu-chun had indeed been happy. For years, his master gave him everything he could, despite their poverty. Plus, the mountain was isolated. There was no drama, and his social circle was incredibly simple and pure. He was completely free. If he got lonely as a kid, he'd play with the wild animals in the forest. He never felt like his life was hard. For him, true suffering only began when his master fell terminally ill. That old priest was his entire world, his only anchor. Losing him was the first time he ever tasted real pain. Afterward, he was left entirely alone in that silent temple, with no one to talk to. Just lonely, empty days. Then, 2 weeks before Father Mu finally tracked him down, Mu-chun went to gather firewood and slipped off a cliff. On that desolate mountain, there was no one to hear him fall. Nobody knew. He died there, silent and alone, and his soul drifted straight to Wangzi City. I happened to be back there handling official business when I crossed paths with him. Looking at his birth chart and spiritual aura, I realized something was wrong. He was destined for a life of luxury and peace, a rare karmic blessing of long life and wealth. Someone with his luck shouldn't end up in the city of the dead. His presence meant his destiny had been forcefully stolen. Since I had some business of my own to settle in the mortal realm anyway, I offered him a fair deal. I would borrow his identity and take care of his unfinished business. We both got what we wanted, and that's how I ended up here, living as Mu-chun. Of course, they didn't know any of that. Dad and Mom only saw a sweet, resilient boy trying to comfort them. Their hearts broke even more, thinking of their poor son, who should have been pampered from birth, but suffered alone in the wild instead. They silently vowed to make it up to me. The mood at the table grew heavy as everyone sat lost in their own thoughts. Even the 4 sisters stopped picking fights and ate in silence. Mom and Dad spent the rest of the meal hovering over me, asking if the food was okay and which dishes I liked best. They practically pampered me to death. Meanwhile, Muzhuan sat there looking completely miserable. Yue wanted to speak up for him a few times, but every time she looked at me, my previous warning shut her up. She kept swallowing her words. I, on the other hand, just focused on inhaling the delicious food. To my parents, though, this was just more proof of my tragic past. Mom looked at me, fighting back tears. She assumed I'd never had a decent meal up on that barren mountain. In her mind, surviving in a rundown temple meant starving most days, with zero chance of eating anything this luxurious. She silently resolved to feed me like a king every single day. After dinner, Dad forced everyone to sit in the living room to bond with me. I sank comfortably into, the massive leather sofa in the middle of the room, staring at the giant screen with absolute fascination. Zhao-chun, do you like watching TV? Mom asked, smiling warmly. I kept my eyes locked on the screen. I nodded vigorously. This television is incredibly fascinating. The moving pictures on screen are way more entertaining than any stage opera. It has been ages since I last visited this bustling mortal world. Honestly, with all these massive changes, I feel like a total country bumpkin. Seeing me like this, Pezuero's eyes welled up with tears. Her poor biological son, already as a grown-up, had never even properly watched a TV before. Just then, the show cut to a commercial, and she quickly grabbed the remote from the table. Chun, let Mum change the channel for you. The drama you were watching just ended, so let's find something else. There are plenty of other great shows to watch. I nodded obediently, looking as sweet and docile as possible. She casually flipped to a channel showing a family drama and set the remote down. But within minutes, a thick wave of awkwardness washed over the room, especially for Muzhuan sitting right next to Usi's pale face instantly flushed to deep, burning red. His eyes were filled with an uncontrollable mix of shame and resentment. Talk about a coincidence, the drama on screen was about a real and fake heir. 2 babies switched at birth, and today's episode just happened to show the biological son returning home. Pezuero stared at the screen, completely frozen in shock. A casual channel flip, and the drama playing on screen was identical to our family's exact situation. The awkwardness was off the charts as the biological son was finally brought back by his parents, but instead of sending the adopted son away, they spoiled him even more, treating him far better than their own blood. The adopted son was their precious treasure, while the real son was treated like dirt. A suffocating silence filled the room, and yet, I just had to speak up. Wow, I sighed, shaking my head in confusion. How can parents cherish an adopted child over their own flesh and blood? I get that years of raising someone builds a bond, but you can't just mistreat your real son. The Mu family immediately felt I was taking a shot at them, but they had no proof. Sure, they hadn't sent Mu Xuan away, but they firmly believed they weren't biased, let alone cold to me. They genuinely couldn't let go of Mu Xuan after raising him for over a decade. Bonds like that don't just vanish overnight. But they knew the difference between blood and adoption. Mu Xuan would never come before me, so they assumed I was just commenting on the show, not mocking them. Even if I was weak, they figured I was targeting my sisters. Mu Fu and Pei Zuaru quietly reassured themselves. They tried to hide their guilt. Initially, they had considered sending Mu Xuan away since he was nearly an adult. They could have bought him an apartment and paid his college tuition. But their daughters had fought fiercely against the idea, desperately pleading for him to stay. They were soft-hearted themselves. Dad glared at my sisters. Mu Xuan couldn't take it anymore. He sobbed into his hands and bolted upstairs. I watched, totally lost. What was his problem now? Mu Yue kept her face dark and stayed quiet, while Pei Zuro smiled tightly. It's nothing, he's probably just not used to it yet. My brow furrowed. If I move in, is he going to cry every day? That would annoy me to death. She choked on her words, looking completely exhausted. You did this on purpose? Mu Yue finally snapped. I looked away, blinking innocently. What was on purpose? She glared at me, grinding her teeth. You deliberately provoked him. Mom and Dad promised to make things up to you. What more do you want? Why do you have to force Mu Xuan out to be happy? Now I got it. I slammed the remote onto the table, stood straight up, and stared coldly at her. Then do you have to kick me out to make room for your precious brother? I came back to my own home, and I can't even talk. Do I have to watch my words just to please that fake young master? I turned and walked out. The living room went dead silent. Infuriated, Dad rushed over, lecturing his youngest daughter until she begged for mercy. I am warning you all, if you treat Mu Chun like this again, I will throw you all out. His face turned incredibly stern. You all need to understand, Mu Chun is your biological brother, your flesh and blood. In this baby-switching mess, he's far more innocent than Mu Xuan. You only care about Mu Xuan feeling wronged. But what about all these years? How much your real brother suffered? How much hardship he went through? The Mu family doesn't mind keeping Mu Xuan, but he must never stand above Mu Xuan. Dad glared at his youngest daughter, his expression dark. You and Mu Xuan are close in age, so your bond has always been the strongest. I understand why you protect him, but you must realize Mu Chan did absolutely nothing wrong. He doesn't owe any of you. I will only say this once. If anyone hurts Mu Chan again, I will skin them alive. Mu Yue's mouth twitched, feeling like this was aimed directly at her. Dad, don't worry. We know our limits. Mu Wanton spoke up, explaining today's situation again. We thought you wouldn't arrive so early, which is why we agreed to watch his game. If we knew you'd be back early, I definitely wouldn't have gone. Mu Ruolan and Mu Yakin nodded. They were twin sisters. Dad and Mom headed upstairs with grim faces, leaving the four sisters staring at each other in the living room. Big sister, don't you think our new brother is a bit? Mu Ruolan paused, taking her time to find the right word to describe her new brother. Unusual. His personality is pretty unique. Mu Wanting recalled tonight's events and nodded in deep agreement. He's not one to take things lying down. His sharp tongue can talk people to death, but he didn't seem to do it on purpose. He just spoke his mind a bit too blunt and tactless. Her brow furrowed as she thought of her other brother, Mu Xuan. He was just far too sensitive. If he doesn't adjust his attitude, he's only going to hurt himself. As she said, even if they lived together for years and favored him, they couldn't keep making their biological brother suffer for his sake. His attitude has to change. Mu Wanting turned to Mu Yu. You're closest to Mu Xuan. Go talk to him, tell him to stop over. Our parents will naturally favor Mu Chin now, but they won't neglect him. He is still their son, after all. Though young and impulsive, Mu Yue wasn't stupid. She nodded solemnly. I got it. One more thing, Mu Wanting added, her voice firm with big sister authority. Be nicer to Mu, or I'll deal with you myself. Having lectured her youngest sister, Mu Wanting headed upstairs. Mu Rulon and Mu Yakin exchanged glances and left. Mu Yue was seething. How is this fair? We all did it, but I'm the scapegoat. I didn't care what they thought downstairs. Back in my room, I shut the door. My parents had clearly put effort into decorating this place for a teenage boy. Thank goodness it wasn't pink. The moment I stepped inside, I felt a strange ripple in the air. I waved my hand, casting a barrier around the room to block any leaks and avoid suspicion. Right then, out of thin air, a figure appeared. A man in a black robe and a demon mask materialized. He knelt before me. Your Highness, my brows furrowed. Why are you here? A sudden dread washed over me. Sure enough, he replied. The city lord sent me. My sister is back in Wangxi City. She has been in the sixth hole forever. Why return the moment I slip into the human world? Before I left, I hoped she would go straight back to report. I never expected things to go so wrong. I barely slipped out, and she immediately returned. Guilt washed over me as I recalled her strict warnings. She had repeatedly ordered me never to enter the human world alone. We were supposed to discuss city affairs first, but I ran into Muchin, thought the timing was perfect, and set everything up behind her back. Given her temper, I'm in for it. Your Highness, she has already returned and found out you left. She is furious and ordered me to deliver this. He stood up and made a presenting gesture. A soft light shimmered, a phantom envelope appeared, and then slowly dissolved. A line of words floated in mid-air, rippling gently before vanishing. Short as it was, I saw it clearly. It was a simple, terrifying forward message, arriving in a few days. Now, I was really panicking. Is it really wise for her to come here? The masked man replied in a flat drone. No one can change her mind, Your Highness. Basically, stop overthinking and prepare for her arrival. I went silent as he vanished. I slumped onto the bed like a deflated balloon. How was she even planning to cross over? If she came in her true form as City Lord, she couldn't stay long. That thought gave me hope. As for her settling scores with me later, I did this for Wangzi City's sake. On that basis, she wouldn't be too harsh. On the third day, the Mu family froze as they walked downstairs and saw me watching TV. They blinked, checked the clock, and went silent. It was only 6 in the morning. Distracted by the noise, I tore my eyes from the screen, threw a casual good morning at them, and instantly looked back. I was too glued to waste a second. Peizuer blinked, then walked over and sat beside me. She glanced at the morning news on screen. Muchin, since you love TV, how about I have one installed in your room? That way, you can watch whenever you want. She was desperate to spoil me. My eyes lit up, and I was about to nod eagerly when Muanting called out from the stairs, cutting me off. Mom, that's not a good idea. If he gets hooked, he'll stay up all night. He's still growing. That made Mom hesitate. She looked at my obsessed face and realized a TV in my room meant I'd definitely pull on. That was out of the question. She quickly backtracked. Mom didn't think this through. You need your sleep more. Keep watching here, and I can join you. We can chat about the shows. My dream of all-night marathons shattered. I shot Mu wanting a resentful look. She clearly disliked me, begrudging me a simple TV. Honestly, my sister from Wangxi City was starting to look much nicer. Sensing my disappointment, Mom felt amused but deeply sympathetic. Kids today only care about phones, not TVs. But my mum couldn't believe how amazed I was. She gently coddled me, saying having a TV in my bedroom would ruin my sleep, and that I shouldn't just lock myself away. Bedrooms are just for sleeping. If you like television, watch it in the living room. No one will fight you for it. I nodded obediently, getting her point. But then I made sure to add, you still can't steal my remote though. My mother Sweru chuckled, her eyes filled with love. All right, the television is all yours. If anyone fights you for the channel, I'll teach them a lesson. She pointedly glared at my sisters walking downstairs. Wanting's lips twitched slightly. She probably thought she hadn't watched television in ages, so why would she fight me for it? If anyone would, it was our fourth sister. Wanting glanced at Yue, who immediately jumped as if her tail had been stepped on. Why are you looking at me, sister? Like I'd ever fight him for the television. She claimed she wasn't that childish, but her defensive outburst drew everyone's eyes. Mine, our mothers, my other 3 sisters, Juan's and our fathers. We all stared at her. I slowly delivered a verbal blow. Even if you wanted to fight me for it, you'd have to see if you actually have the skills. Mom immediately snapped at her. No fighting with Zhao Chun over the television. Understand? If I catch you bullying him, I'll have your father cut off your allowance completely. Not a single penny. Yue looked incredibly aggrieved, like a puffed-up frog, glaring at me in frustration. I didn't even bother giving her a side-eye, which made her so angry she lost her appetite. Normally kids our age are high school seniors. Juan was set to take his college entrance exams next June. I should have been on the same track. But since I'd lived in a temple without any formal schooling, my grade level was a puzzle. Could I even keep up if I jumped straight into senior year? Getting me into a school was easy, but choosing the right grade was a real headache. Dad frowned as he brought it up, though I saw it as a perfect chance to learn about this world. Beside him, Juan's eyes rolled as he smiled. Dad, why not let Zhao Chun join my class? I can look after him and help him with his studies. I didn't even look at him. Dad seemed interested but worried I'd fall behind and get terrible grades. Juan was a top student, and comparing us was inevitable. Plus, the truth about us being swapped at birth was bound to get out. My parents had no intention of hiding it anyway. But once everyone knew, the comparisons would start, and Dad worried it might hurt my pride. My eldest sister, Wanting, spoke up calmly. Dad, you don't need to worry too much about that. If he struggles, we can hire private tutors for one-on-one prep, and we can help him ourselves too. Since this semester's almost over, he can enroll next term. He can use this break to catch up, and I'm sure he'll be fine. Mom's eyes lit up, and she clapped her hands happily. Of course, why didn't I think of that? We'll get private tutors, except for you 3 are brilliant. Tutoring Zhao Chun for his senior year will be a breeze. She immediately made a decision. Let's let him settle in for a couple of days. Then, You three can take turns tutoring him in different subjects to get him up to speed. Wanting agreed with a nod, and since she did, my second and third sisters followed suit. Yue sat there, unsure whether to be relieved or annoyed at being underestimated. I wanted to refuse, but seeing my three sisters agree and Mom looking so incredibly excited, I swallowed my objections. Meanwhile, Juan bit his lip and cast his gaze downward, hiding his deep grievance. The swap was no secret in their social circle anyway. My parents had already planned to throw a grand banquet for the local elites once I settled in, officially introducing me. They wanted to restore my status openly so no one would look down on me. I hated fancy events, but I knew this was necessary. Otherwise people would gossip that I was unloved or pushed aside by the fake son. Once I got a bit used to my new life, Mom couldn't wait to drag me to a massive mall for a wild shopping spree. Except for Dad and my eldest sister who had to work, everyone was dragged along to accompany me. Coincidentally, only Juan was left behind. Sitting in the front passenger seat, Yue kept glaring at me through the rearview mirror. I didn't even blink. Obviously, she was mad because Juan chose not to come. Was I supposed to beg him? At the parking lot, Yue rushed to park the car. Rualan and Yakin walked in with Mom and me, kicking off our shopping spree. My sisters were on bag-carrying duty, while Mom happily held my arm as we strolled through the mall. Suddenly I stopped and listened closely. Mom, did you hear that? I think I heard a heavy thud, like something massive just fell from way up high and crashed onto the floor, and it definitely wasn't some ordinary object. The sound was very specific. Mom listened to it but shook her head. Nothing. This place is packed and loud. Any sound is probably just the noisy crowd. But as she spoke, Ruola noticed something happening up ahead. We could hear faint screams. Mom looks like trouble ahead. My eyes flashed, and I grabbed her wrist. Let's go look. Before anyone could stop me, I was already pulling her along, racing toward the scene. We squeezed through the crowd, leaving my sisters staring in disbelief. Why is he so nosy? Yue muttered, catching up after parking. Ruolan gave her a cool look. If Mom hears you, you're getting scolded again. Yue rolled her eyes. We should go check too. If there's trouble, Mom and our little brother might be in danger, Yakin said calmly, heading after us. Ruolan quickly followed, leaving Yue trailing slowly behind. Meanwhile, dragged along by me, Mom soon reached the crowded spot. Watching me push my way in, her lips twitched. Who knew? I usually seemed so quiet and aloof, but here I was, chasing drama. Honestly, she'd probably found me even cuter for it. But the moment Mom saw the scene, her face turned pale. She gasped in horror, instinctively stepping in front of me to shield my view. Still feeling unsafe, she spun around and covered my eyes, refusing to let me look. A horrific accident had occurred in the mall. I just wanted to assess the situation, but she covered my eyes. As a prince of the underworld, I could bizarrely see how this person died. If it was a wrongful death, they'd end up under my jurisdiction. My city of wrongful deaths was already overcrowded as it was. Mom, I'm not a kid, and I'm not scared, I said calmly, pulling her hand down. She rolled her eyes at me. What do you mean you're not a kid? You haven't even had your birthday yet. What a joke. A 1,000-year-old ghost like me, treated like a toddler. Ruolan caught up and shielded me too. I pinched the bridge of my nose in frustration as more security quickly arrived. They called an ambulance and began dispersing the crowd. Mom refused to let me stick around, dragging me away. Shaken by the tragedy, and since we'd bought enough anyway, she decided it was time to head home. Dealing with a fatal accident felt like bad luck. Mom, you go to the car first. I'm going to get some fresh air in the corridor. She wanted to come with me, but I firmly refused. I wasn't a 3-year-old child needing a constant escort. I walked down to the quiet corridor and stood by the window. Suddenly a young man approached. He flinched upon seeing me, then lowered his head and hurried past. I stared intently at his retreating back. My nostrils flared as I sniffed the air, catching a faint scent of death. I deliberately lingered by the window, and sure enough, the man soon doubled back. He froze, surprised to see me still standing there. As he approached, I sniffed again. There was no mistake, the stench of death clung to him, though it was faint. I gave him a long look. What are you staring at? Never seen a handsome guy, he snapped. Noticing my gaze, he looked like he'd been caught, rushing off in a panic. He was practically vibrating with guilt. If someone was about to die, they'd carry a heavy aura of death. Since he didn't, there were only two options left. Either he got it from someone else, or he just killed someone. The first option had too many variables, but the second was straightforward. I instantly thought of the girl who had just fallen. I calmly dusted off my hands, and turned to leave. In the car, Mom was out of her mind with worry. After witnessing such a horror, she was terrified that her newly found son might get hurt. Only when we got home did she finally relax. She quickly forgot the incident and busied herself unpacking. As for me, I collapsed onto the couch and turned on the television. Officially a die-hard couch potato. Meanwhile, Rualan and Yakin went to their rooms to study. Both were top students, entering their senior year of college, so they were extremely busy. Yue was the lazy one. Slumping onto the sofa, she watched Mom working upstairs. Unable to help herself, she mockingly sneered at me. What's so great about television, bumpkin? You have no class. Keeping my eyes on the screen, I calmly agreed. Yeah, I grew up in a mountain temple, so of course I have no class. As a prince of the underworld whose sister dumped all the work on him, I'd been too busy to care about mortal affairs. But now that I was living as Muchun, I had to understand this world quickly, and watching television seemed like the fastest way. I could learn about the world without leaving the house. How convenient. Yue was choked by my response. You're doing this on purpose to make us feel guilty. So we feel bad, and you can secure your place here. As she kept babbling, I gave her a look, treating her like an idiot. Spotting Mum coming downstairs, I yelled out without a shred of guilt. Mom, Yue is calling me names again. She called me a bumpkin and said I'm trying to make you feel bad. She hates me so much. Is she trying to kick me out of the house? Yue's eyes went wide. Before she could even sputter a response, Mom grabbed her by the ear. Mom, calm down. Don't listen to him. I didn't. Yue cried out in pain, trying to defend herself. I pointed at her with a perfectly timed expression of hurt on my face. It was her. She called me that. She kept calling me a country bumpkin who had never even seen a television. I explained that growing up in a mountain temple meant I lacked worldly experience. But she just kept going. Mu Yue opened her mouth to argue, but she really did say those things. She insisted she didn't mean it that way. But my mom snapped, telling her she was asking for a beating, and dragged her away by the ear so she wouldn't ruin my TV time. Mom was determined to teach my fourth sister a lesson. I couldn't understand my sister. She doted on Muzhuan like he was some rare treasure, yet she targeted me the moment I returned. I am her actual flesh and blood, her real brother. She really couldn't see who actually mattered. Clearly she had been spoiled too much. I coldly watched Mo Yue squirm in pain, feeling zero sympathy. I even gave her a smug look that drove her absolutely insane. That was when I realized, of the 4 daughters in this family, Mu Yue was easily the dumbest, hopelessly foolish. I turned my attention back to the TV screen, staring intently at the news channel as if waiting for something. Sure enough, the local station began reporting on the mall incident from earlier today. Around 11 a.m., a woman fell from the downtown Four Seasons Mall. She was rushed to the hospital with severe injuries but unfortunately passed away. As the news stated, the police were still investigating. I frowned. She really was dead. I couldn't help but recall the man I ran into in the corridor. He was about the same age, looking incredibly panicked and guilty. Most importantly, he smelled of death. Was he connected to her? Was her fall an accident, a suicide, or was she murdered? I wanted to rush to the scene to see if it was fate or foul play. But having just returned to the Mu family, I barely knew the city. Going out alone was basically impossible, so I had to drop it for now. Once the news ended, I slowly stood up and walked over. Playing the nice guy, I said, Mom, don't be mad at her. She actually had a point, but before I could even finish, Mu Yue glared at me, brimming with resentment. I don't need your fake sympathy, she snapped. That instantly poked a hornet's nest. My mother, who had almost calmed down, lost her temper again. Xiao Chun, ignore her, she said. She is tough enough to survive a beating anyway. I made some soup for you in the kitchen. Go see if it is ready. She patted me gently, giving Mu Yue a mock sympathetic look. I happily headed off to get some food. Behind me, she glared, convinced I was just gloating. Of course, my mom caught her glaring. Mu Yue, today, I am definitely breaking this feather duster on you. While they argued, I kept trying to figure out how to find that mysterious man. Luckily, the perfect opportunity fell right into my lap. Nearly all of Shanghai's high society received invitations to our banquet. When the day arrived, the villa was packed with guests. Clinking glasses and laughter filled the air, with glamorous socialites and wealthy businessmen in sharp suits mingling everywhere. They all gathered in small groups, chatting. I stayed upstairs in my room since my mum was too busy downstairs. She planned to fetch me. When it was time for my formal introduction, after changing into my custom suit, I stepped out. Passing Muzhuan's room, I paused. I honestly did not mean to eavesdrop, but they were talking quite loudly over the noise downstairs. Besides, I am no ordinary person, so it took very little effort for me to catch their conversation. I easily recognized the voice. The woman speaking with Muzhuan was my aunt. For this grand banquet, the entire Beijing branch of the Mu family had arrived, including my uncle's family who inherited the company, ancestral home, and most of our assets, and of course, the prestigious matriarch, Grandmother Mu. Honestly, their arrival felt pretty half. They only showed up late last night. Grandmother stayed at our villa, while my uncle's family chose a downtown hotel instead. I pondered this curiously. Muzhuan seemed very close to my uncle's family. My aunt had barely spared me a glance earlier, offering only a few hollow pleasantries. Just then, I heard footsteps inside. I quickly slipped back into my room to wait for them to leave. Once they went downstairs, I stepped back out. My mom was just coming up to find me, and she beamed with pride the second she saw me. Zhao Chun, you look so handsome tonight, she gushed. Honestly, she wasn't exaggerating. She probably felt my years of spiritual cultivation kept me free from worldly greed. giving me a pure, refined aura. She was growing more fond of me by the second, secretly vowing to protect me so I would never lose this peace. "Let us head down, sweetheart," she said gently. As we walked, I casually asked if we should call Muj. "No need," my mom replied. "Tonight is your night. Besides, he is busy with his aunt anyway. Calling him might just make him overthink things. He has been so sensitive lately." Her voice trailed off. It seemed my aunt adored Muj. Yet, from what I gathered, my cheap father and his older brother did not get along well at all. Otherwise, my dad wouldn't have left for Shanghai to build his own business from scratch. Our annual family reunions in Beijing were purely out of respect for grandmother Mu. So, why did my aunt dote on Muzhuan so much? My mom explained that my uncle had no sons, and my aunt's son did not carry the Mu family name. I was the only male heir born to the family. Naturally, they had projected all their affection onto Muzhuan as a child. Mom looked incredibly guilty. I was the one who should have been pampered as the family's true young master, but fate had other plans. Seeing her grow sad over the past, I raised an eyebrow. So, that was the reason. I had been back for over 2 weeks, but tonight was my official debut. Flanked by my parents, I slowly walked down the grand staircase. My appearance and calm demeanor instantly captivated the room, drawing every eye directly to me. I showed no trace of awkwardness or fear. Every gesture spoke of a high society air raised in luxury. Watching me steal the spotlight, Muzhuan felt a sudden pang of panic, his heart dropping instantly. He stared at me, green with envy. Sensing his panic, my aunt whispered to him, telling him not to worry. She insisted I was just putting on a show, reminding him that he was the one raised by the family for over a decade. "So what if he is the biological son?" she urged. "Love takes time to build." Lu Manchi patted his hand gently to reassure him. Muzhuan could only offer a strained, bitter smile. "I'm fine, aunt," he murmured. "I am honestly happy they found their real son. I enjoyed their wealth for so many years, so I am the one who wronged my brother." Lu Manchi scoffed and whispered, "What does that have to do with you? You were just a baby back then. It was the parents' fault for letting the identity mix-up happen. Don't worry, I know your parents well. They raised you with love for over 10 years, so they won't just stop caring. Even with their real son back, they will still cherish you. Adjust your attitude and hold your head high. You did nothing wrong, and you do not owe anyone a thing." Got it? Muzhuan bit his lip and nodded. He quieted down, but he knew things would never be the same. Before my return, whether in Shanghai or Beijing, he was the absolute center of attention. The only young master the Mu family ever focused on. Everyone used to cater to his every whim. But now, the gap was undeniable. Since I came back, my parents' attention had completely shifted. Their eyes were constantly on me, their long-lost biological son. Even my sisters were pulling away, leaving only my fourth sister to defend him. He felt incredibly wrong. Everything that was once entirely his now had to be shared with me. It was a bitter pill to swallow. Meanwhile, my parents proudly introduced me to the crowd, making their love for me perfectly clear. Even my 4 sisters stood closely by our side. To the guests, this unified family picture sent a very loud message. "This is ridiculous. They are up there playing happy family while leaving you out," grumbled one of Muzhuan's rich friends. Muzhuan quickly hushed him, saying, "Don't talk like that. Tonight belongs to my brother. He is the star of the night. Why would I steal his spotlight?" Honestly, my parents had not excluded him on purpose. My mom had actually invited Muzhuan to join us on stage, but he had firmly refused. He had insisted that I was the rightful heir and that he had no place up there. He sounded incredibly reasonable. My mom agreed, realizing that putting him on stage alongside me might only make things awkward for him. A direct comparison would only embarrass him, so they let it go. Yet, despite declining the offer, Muzhuan still felt abandoned. His noble act carried a heavy, sad tone, making his wealthy friends feel even more protective. "Sure, he is the biological son," his friend argued, "but you have been here for over 10 years. Why should he push you out? By order of arrival, he is just an outsider crashing your life." "You can't say that," Muzhuan replied, pretending to be noble. "He is their flesh and blood. He suffered in a mountain temple while I lived in luxury. If he is resentful, I completely understand and won't hold it against him." His friend scoffed, unable to hide his disdain. "He grew up in a temple. He probably doesn't even know what a television looks like. I can't believe such a country bumpkin exists. You can't compare yourself to him. Anyone with a brain would know who to choose. You are a refined young master raised in luxury. That bumpkin cannot compare. If your parents cannot see that, they will regret it sooner or later. They're just waiting for this country bumpkin, meaning me, to embarrass the Mu family and make us laugh." They told Muzhuan he was too weak, warning him that backing down only invites bullies, and that he must fight for what is his. Muzhuan kept nodding along, claiming he understood everything. He told him not to worry, claiming nobody bullied him at home, and that our 4th sister was still as good to him as ever. It sounded comforting, but it was pure manipulation. By only mentioning her, he was implying my other 3 older sisters had cast him aside. Was he heartbroken? Discarded just because they found their biological son? Muzhuan stopped there, knowing when to quit. He didn't want to do anything truly evil. He was just threatened after seeing me steal the spotlight, fearing I'd fit in too quickly and snatch away all his glory. That's why he wanted to feed his friends some rumors first. Word of mouth spreads fast, and even if it didn't stop anything, it'd still do some damage. As they were whispering, they saw the star of the night, which was me, walking right toward them. Their faces faltered, but they quickly forced a calm look, telling themselves I hadn't heard a thing. What was there to fear? Muzhuan was actually feeling guilty himself, which is why he didn't notice his friend beside him going completely pale the second he saw me. The guy quickly looked down, nervously wringing his hands before releasing them as if shocked, trying to act normal. Muzhuan gave me a fragile smile and praised my looks. I just nodded slightly. Of course I looked handsome, that's just a fact. But speaking of looks, it's a strange twist of fate. Muzhuan actually resembles me. Back when I saw Muchan's soul in the city of the dead, I was shocked myself. Who'd have thought this poor, unlucky ghost would look so much like me? The resemblance was uncanny. Reflecting on it, I suppose it was just destiny. I accepted his compliment without a hint of modesty, then shifted my gaze to the man standing right beside him. Who's this? Muzhuan looked tense, glancing nervously at his friend before introducing him. He introduced him as Zheng Yan, the youngest son of the Zheng family. They'd been inseparable since elementary school, sharing a long history. Ah, so this is young Master Zheng, I said, deliberately drawing out the title. I let a knowing tone slip into my voice. Muzhuan looked between us, utterly confused, and asked if we already knew each other. Before I could even open my mouth, Zheng Yan practically jumped to deny it, insisting they didn't know me. He was far too eager, which only made him look incredibly guilty. My smile widened. We don't know each other, I said, but we did cross paths in a mall hallway just a few days ago. I dragged the sentence out, and before I could even finish, he cut me off in a panic, claiming he suddenly remembered some urgent business and had to run. Before Muzhuan could even reply, he turned and bolted like a scolded dog. I'd only walked over to test him, but I never expected this guy to be so weak. His complete lack of composure basically shouted his guilt. If he had nothing to hide, why the panic? I turned my gaze to Muzhuan. He froze instantly under my stare, looking incredibly tense for some reason. He stammered, asking what was wrong. That friend of yours, I said, deliberately stretching out my words to torture him. He pleaded, asking me not to hold a grudge if Zheng Yan had offended me, insisting his friend was actually a good guy. I gave a casual shrug. Don't worry about it, I said. If he's your friend, you should invite him over. Muzhuan was stunned, his mouth hanging open, but I didn't give him room to argue. Let's make it the day after tomorrow. Bring him over, and I'll have the kitchen whip up some high-end desserts. Besides, the main family branch returns to the capital that day. My tone left no room for negotiation. It was a cold order. I turned and walked off, leaving him with no way to refuse. He stood there, utterly speechless, trading confused looks with his friends. There was a solid reason I targeted Zheng Yan, aside from sensing the literal stench of death on him that day. The news later reported a girl falling to her death at that very mall. They ruled it an accident, but I knew better. I felt a raw, lingering resentment. Even though I'm living in the mortal world right now, whenever a new soul is dragged into the city of the dead, my senses pick up on it immediately. When Yuma was caught in a dispute and fell to her death, a tragedy they covered up, countless people die every single day, both naturally and violently. And I can't possibly sense every single resentful spirit. It requires a specific trigger. I suppose it was because I was right there at the mall, standing so close to her in her final moments. The city of the dead is a waiting room for those whose lives were cut short. Normally, those who die naturally follow standard protocols. The underworld processes them, deciding their next destination based on their deeds. Most reincarnate, a few ascend, and some wait in the city of the dead until their natural lifespan runs out. But those who die unjustly must wait for justice. Only when the truth is revealed and their resentment fades can they enter the cycle of rebirth. Right now, the city of the dead is completely gridlocked. Souls are trapped there, unable to move on. Day after day, new arrivals flood in, but nobody leaves. If this keeps up, the city will collapse, and thousands of souls will simply fade away. The root of the problem is that the gate of rebirth has been shut tight. Without it open, spirits are trapped. My sister and I analyzed this for ages. We tried everything to fix it, but nothing worked. It was only after the Bodhisattva gave us a hint that we understood our mission. That's why I came to the mortal realm. My goal is to gather enough merit and faith to reopen the gate. I need to get the city of the dead running again. Now that a perfect lead has dropped into my lap, I can't just turn it down. Muzhuan, meanwhile, was completely baffled by my actions. After the party, he ran straight to our mother Pei's. He thought she'd refuse out of protectiveness toward me, but she happily agreed instead. Realizing he couldn't stop it there, he cornered my fourth sister Muyu. He greeted her politely while putting on a perfectly staged, hesitant look. Anyone could tell he was hiding something, especially Muyue, who always babied him. Honestly, she wanted to avoid him because she felt guilty about tonight, believing he'd been wronged. But she was torn. She'd spent over a decade spoiling him, but I was her biological brother, too. She couldn't just mistreat me to keep him happy. If she tried that, our parents would throw her out of the house. Stuck in the middle, she had no idea how to face him and tried to steer clear. But seeing him look so miserable and hesitant, her heart soft. She asked if he had something to tell her. Muzhuan bit his lip, playing the victim. Fourth sister, he whimpered. It's about Zhao Chun. I don't know if Zhang Yan upset him, but I'll gladly apologize if he did. But Zhao Chun insisted I invite Zhang Yan over. Do you think he's looking for trouble? My sister frowned, clearly finding my request suspicious. She assured him she'd stay home that day to keep me in line. Muzhuan fell silent for a moment, then sighed. Fourth sister, can we just let it go? Zhao Chun is my brother, and Zhang Yan is my best friend. I don't want any drama. She scratched her head, pointing out the obvious. You know how things are at home now, Zhuan. If he wants to invite your friend, our parents will definitely agree. They'll be thrilled, so we have no excuse to say no. If we try to block it, our mother will definitely call us out. Seeing his crestfallen face, she patted her chest and promised she'd watch me closely to ensure I didn't bully Zhang Yan, since she put it that way. Muzhuan had to agree. He had no choice. Deep down he felt a strange, nagging anxiety, and he highly trusted his instincts. Still unable to stop it, he had to find another way. Overall, my welcome home banquet was a massive success. Even my grandmother, though she wasn't exactly warm, wasn't foolish enough to cause a scene on such an important night. Everything went smoothly, and the guests left happy. Ever since I returned to the family, I've enjoyed complete freedom in every way. My parents never placed any demands on me, telling me to just make myself comfortable. Naturally, I slept in every day. I stayed up late surfing the internet anyway, trying to understand this modern world. So sleeping in was perfectly justified. Nobody in the house used to complain, but I forgot we had guests who didn't care for me. The moment I walked downstairs, someone barked. The elders are all awake, yet you're still sleeping. My grandmother glared at me. She gave me a dirty look and complained. Look at Muzhuan. He got up early to help with breakfast. You should learn from him and show some respect. My mother immediately bristled at her words, defending me by saying there was absolutely nothing to help with. She told her the kids could sleep as long as they liked, and it wasn't even late yet anyway. Besides, respect isn't measured by wake-up times. She was just protecting me, but she didn't realize her words deeply hurt Muzhuan. It basically implied he only got up early to kiss up to everyone. Unbothered, I sat down, looked at him, and acted surprised. I've been back a while, I said, but I've never tasted your cooking. Did you just make too little? Did everyone eat it all without leaving me any? Strange, because I usually see you wake up even later than me. Do you wake up, make food, and then go back to bed? His face flushed red with sheer embarrassment. It was summer break, and he rarely left his room except for meals anyway. Besides, with maids around, a pampered young master like him rarely touched a stove. Since grandmother praises you so much, I said, your food must be amazing. I'd love to try some tomorrow. I smiled, not forcing him, but the implication was clear. My grandmother scowled, asking why I was ordering him around when we had servants. I looked at her with feigned confusion. How is this ordering him around? He's my older brother. What's wrong with a brother cooking for his sibling? Besides, I'm just trying to support his desire to show you respect, grandmother. Aside from my mother, everyone at the table looked like they knew I was talking nonsense. If he doesn't practice, how will he improve? If his cooking's bad, it might upset your stomach, grandmother. At your age, you can't afford to get sick. I sighed heavily, looking entirely selfless. But I'm young and resilient. He suffered so much, so using him as a guinea pig is great practice. This shattered Pezuero's illusion. How did I say something so shameless with a straight face? Muzhuan was almost driven to tears by me. She frowned. You are far too stubborn. Your grandmother said one word, and you talked back 10 times. Aren't you afraid of upsetting her? Besides, you ruined Zhuan's beautiful decorations. She looked at me with total disapproval. I know you feel that Zhuan enjoyed years of luxury and took what was yours, but he was just a baby back then. What could he possibly know? He is just as innocent as you. Why target him? Zhuan is gentle. If he treats you like a brother, he means it. Isn't it nice to have an extra brother to care for you? Why do this? He shook his head, disappointed. Pezuero was absolutely furious but held it in, though her face fell. Sister-in-law, you misunderstand. Zhao Chun is not targeting anyone. He is just too blunt and speaks without filtering. He means no harm. Exactly. How could I have any ill intent? I am not targeting him. I treat him way better than fourth sister. Ask him knowing he's innocent is why I let him stay. I'll let him stay in the Mu family as a young master. Isn't that enough? I am so kind I could cry. I have never seen anyone as generous as me. With a pure, innocent look, I wondered if Aunt still thinks I am bullying him. Does she want my identity, too? Should I hand over my biological parents as well? I made sure to emphasize those words. Lu Manchi was completely choked up. What could she say? My expression was so genuine she could not tell if I was being deliberate or not. Old Mrs. Mu was also rendered speechless. She reflexively tried to pull rank as an elder, but I did not give her the chance. Are you also worried I will bully Mu? Since everyone loves him, why not let him live with grandma? He is not a kid anymore. He does not need constant care. Living with grandma lets him show more filial piety, like making her breakfast daily. I tilted my head playfully. This way, he is filial, and nobody worries about me bullying him. A win-win. The dining table went completely silent. Old Mrs. Mu and Lu Manchi stared at me, while Peisweru looked lost. As for Mu Zhuan, he was terrified. Zhao Chun, please stop. Grandma and aunt did not mean that. They are just worried about me. But I have not suffered at all. Mom, Dad, and my sisters still treat me well. Of course you did not bully me either. Please do not mind them. If he moved in with grandma, his position would be incredibly awkward. He is a son of the Mu family, forever. He looked at us pleadingly, appealing to the two elders. They truly doted on him, so they swallowed their anger for his sake. The atmosphere finally normalized, though everyone lost their appetite. Except for me, of course. I ate heartily, even having more than my usual share. I enjoyed a thick bowl of millet porridge with some light side dishes. It was so refreshing. Seeing me eat so happily only made the two elders fume inside. On the third day, once they left, I urged Mu Zhuan to invite Zhang Yan over. Zhang Yan wanted to refuse, but remembering the hallway incident, he steeled himself and showed up. Paizueru welcomed him warmly, letting Mu Zhuan host, while I took my time. The moment he saw me, a guilty Zhang Yan froze, trying to avoid my gaze. He probably hoped the family would run interference, but I did not play by the rules. Gesturing with my chin to Mu Yue and Mu Zhuan, I said, please leave us. I need a private word with Mr. Ji. Mu Zhuan's face instantly paled. Mu Chan, what are you doing? If Jiang Yan offended you, just say so. You cannot invite a guest over just to bully him. I rolled my eyes at Mu Yue. If you are bored, use your brain. It is not just a decorative ornament, and it is certainly not there just to make you look taller. The other three sisters seem smart and tactful. Why is this one so clueless? Mu Yue fumed, opening her mouth to snap back. But I just shouted, Mum. Mu Yue flinched and quickly shut her mouth. Hearing me, Zhao Chun, what is it? Mom, I want to show Mu Zhuan's friend the garden. Is that okay? She did not find it odd at all, smiling warmly. Go ahead, but the sun is strong, so do not overheat. Mu Zhuan quickly chimed in. I will tag along. He was clearly paranoid, sensing I had an ulterior motive. I was not about to play nice and flatly refused. No need, we will be right back. You should stay and keep her company. I glanced at Mu Yue, adding sarcastically, she stayed home just to make sure nobody bullies you. I turned and walked off, knowing Jiang Yan would follow. Mu Yue stood there embarrassed. My logical brother was incredibly scheming. His words practically painted her as a paranoid watchdog. What a manipulator. Once in the garden, Jiang Yan glared at me with deep suspicion. What do you want with me? Before I could reply, he rushed to add, I do not know what you want. I did not offend you in the hallway. Is this because I glared at you? I cut him off. What is your connection to the girl who fell? Did you contact her before the incident? Or I slowly turned and tilted my head, looking right through him. Actually, this has everything to do with you guys. No, it does not. Zhang Yan shrieked, his face turning pale as a flash of sheer panic and terror leaked from his eyes. Whether it is nonsense, you know best. That was she was dragged into this and lost her life. What if I report it? Sensing he had let slip vital information, I shrugged. Why do I need proof? I just need to say the word, and others will dig up the evidence. I wonder what this scandal would do to your reputation, Mr. Zhang. Are you threatening me? Do not think I am scared because you are a young master. You are nothing compared to Zhuan. Replace him. Dream on. He has been here for over 10 years. You cannot match his bond with the family. I gave him a bizarre look. Why would I compare myself to Mu Zhuan? He is adopted. I am the biological son. Why would I try to replace an adopted kid? Am I insane? Let me correct you. This is not a threat. I am reminding you, nothing stays buried forever. That was a real human life. Do you think a closed case means you are in the clear? I gave him a knowing look and walked away. I only wanted answers to save time. Even if I stayed quiet, my abilities would eventually bring a spirit to my door. Zhang Yan dismissed my warning entirely. Mu Zhuan clearly wanted to ask what I had said to make his friend storm off. And if I had bullied him, but my cold look warned him I would humiliate him if he dared to crawl into a hole. I was just wondering how long it would take for the truth to break. But it happened incredibly fast. Seeing the online frenzy, it made total sense. Everything moves quickly now. Once a story hits the internet, it spreads instantly. It is definitely the fastest way to get justice. I even saw some online comments from people who remembered seeing Peisweru at the mall that day. I thought it was just a tragic accident. One wrote, if her parents are right, this is truly heartbreaking. She was only 25, an only child. No wonder her parents refused to let it go. If her own child died under mysterious circumstances, she would go insane too. Thinking of this, Peisweru felt a chill and quickly pushed it aside, reassuring herself we still had plenty of time to bond. Meanwhile, the victim's parents told the media their daughter was quiet, had few friends, came from a modest family and never indulged in luxury or expensive shopping. Unlike other girls her age, she rarely bought anything for herself, giving all her salary to her parents. She lived a simple life, commuting strictly between work and home. Yet, she fell from a luxury mole she could never afford. That day she acted strangely before leaving, but they did not suspect anything. At first, they believed it was an accident, but clearing her room revealed a hidden secret. She had faced terrible injustice. Now they believe it was foul play and want justice. Muzhuan's eyes darted nervously, avoiding the TV. His hands clamped together on his knees, rubbing restlessly as his face drained of color. I noticed his sudden panic. It was incredibly suspicious. Remembering his close tie with Zhang Yan, a realization hit me. I spoke up out of nowhere. Why so jumpy? Do you know her? Or did you do something you cannot speak of? Muzhuan flinched, snapping his head up to glare at me. Zhao Chun, what rubbish. Even if you hate me, you cannot throw accusations like that. Pei Sheriff rose, startled by his sharp tone. Juan, do you know this poor girl? Is she a relative of a classmate? It is possible. Since your private high school was expensive but offered scholarships to brilliant, low-income students, she might be related to one of them. Muzhuan's expression shifted again. I prodded. If your conscience is clean, why are you so tense? Just speak up. You and Mr. Jiang are acting bizarre. You dodge and look guilty, like it is written on your faces. The news is everywhere. A simple investigation will uncover everything. You should spill it now so we can find a solution. Pei Zueru initially doubted it, but seeing her adopted son's face, her heart sank. Mom, I swear I did not. Muzhuan panicked. Zhao Chun might not know me, but surely you do, Mom. I am the son you raised for over 10 years. Seeing him play the victim again made me want to roll my eyes. Stop acting. Your guilt is written all over your face. Even if you did not do it, you are involved. Let us see how long you can hide it. I got up and went upstairs. Muzhuan flushed with rage and burst into tears. Mom, you see how it is. Ever since Zhao Chen returned, I've constantly stepped back. I know I have no right to compete with him. I truly wanted us to get along and care for you and Dad, but he hates everything I do and constantly attacks me. Zhang Yan left in a rage today, and I do not even know what Zhao Chun did to him. Mom, what should I do? Maybe I should just move out. I am not an adult, but I can support myself. You raising me all these years is a massive blessing. I cannot ask for more. He seemed to let out all his built-up panic, worry, and resentment, sobbing into his hands. Pei Zueru watched him with a breaking heart. Both sons were dear to her. I was biological, but Juan had been raised by her side for years, making him feel like her own. She was not foolish enough to expect us to love each other. Peace was enough. Besides, I had said I did not mind him staying. Still, my sharp tongue was a constant source of worry. We had to be gentler. At home we could tolerate him, but what about out in the real world? While Mom was lost in thought, Muzhuan cried, waiting in vain for comfort. He choked up, looked up, and got even more upset. Mom was actually spacing out. This time, he was truly heartbroken. The moment I returned to my room, I sensed something. With a flick of my wrist, I cast a barrier and ordered, "Show yourself." After a long pause, a blurry figure drifted out, trembling. As soon as my eyes swept over, she shrank into the corner. Even as a ghost, her courage was practically non-existent. No wonder those rich bullies walked all over her. I seriously doubted a spirit this timid could be of any use. What could she even do? Could she really trigger some destiny? I was highly skeptical. How did you find this place? I demanded. Speak up, or I am throwing you out. Terrified, the figure scrambled to answer. I am Wenyi. I had an accident at the mall a few days ago. Her voice grew incredibly faint. It had taken her days to accept this harsh reality. When I fell that day, she whispered, I already knew I wouldn't make it. Even if I survived, the medical bills would have ruined my family. It was better to just go. For a moment she did not know whether to feel relieved or not. I shrugged. Ushas, what do you want? Revenge. When Yima froze. Revenge. Me. Can I actually get revenge? If not for revenge, why did you find me? If you didn't want payback, you wouldn't be lingering in the human world. I just can't let go of my parents, she said. I am sure you've seen them. You were their only daughter. Now that you are gone, they will fight to the bitter end. When Yima was silent for a long time before muttering, they can't beat those people. Her voice shook slightly. I began to understand. It was not that she did not hate them or want revenge. It was just that she had been bullied for so long that the fear was literally branded onto her soul. Even as a ghost, she was still terrified of living people. This showed just how deeply she had suffered under their power. Can you help me? I know you are different. You can help me, right? She suddenly looked up, pleading. She didn't know who this boy before her was, or why I could see her without any fear. If I could see her and remain completely calm, I had to be special. She felt some invisible pull drawing her here, so I had to be able to help, right? I smiled slightly. How do you want me to help you? That question stumped her. She had no idea herself, so how could she ask someone else? Did she not feel resentment? Of course she did. Her fall was no accident. It was a violent confrontation that had been covered up. When she fell, she felt terror, despair, and deep hatred. Why did they do this to her? She had only tried to stop those rich kids from bullying people. Why did standing up for what was right cost her life? She used to work at a milk tea shop where those wealthy playboys often hung out. One day, they caused a scene. She intervened but was met with insults and threats. Furious, she claimed she was recording them and would post it online. Only then did they back off. She thought it was just a minor incident, never imagining she had provoked monsters. From then on, their revenge began. They isolated her at school and spread vile rumors to humiliate her. When she tried to quit her job, they threatened her boss and tracked down her address. This terrified her parents. They stuffed her desk with trash and destroyed her study guides. She thought if she just endured it, they would get bored. Instead, she lost her life. Afterward, it was ruled an accidental fall, and the truth was buried. Remembering this, her resentment flared up. The air in my room rippled under her raw anger. Curtains fluttered, and the tassels on my lamp rustled. I want them to feel my pain, she hissed. I want them to get what they deserve. I rested my chin in my hand. What they deserve, sending them to prison. That is easy enough. But when Yamo's pure hatred surfaced, replacing her timidity with a cold, dark aura, her face twisted slightly. Their powerful families would never let them stay behind bars. Even if they did, it would be brief. My whole life for just a few years of prison. Is my life really that worthless? She demanded. Then how about a life for a life? I asked casually, as if talking about the weather. When Yimo gasped, her boiling rage pausing for a moment. If that's possible, of course that would be best. But can you really do it? She asked cautiously. Why should she be gone while they lived as if nothing happened? Did she die for nothing? Human laws could never truly balance the scales. I smiled. Of course I can. Hope flared in her eyes. Can you really help me get revenge? If I help you get revenge, can you move on in peace? She nodded, then paused, her face full of sorrow. I can let go of my hate, but I can't leave my parents. I am their only child. I've thought about it. Your parents aren't that old. Perhaps they could have another child. She was stunned by my words, but realized her parents actually could have another child. If so, she could truly rest in peace. Then when will you help me? What is the price? My eyes flickered as I gave her a meaningful smile. You don't need to worry about that. I won't help you for free, but I won't demand anything you can't handle. We will settle the payment after it is done. I am no ordinary human, so what I want is far from ordinary. When Yumo nodded instantly. Then we wait. We need the perfect opportunity. She nodded, then hesitated. Suddenly nervous, she asked, can you protect my parents? I belong to the underworld, not heaven, I reminded her. I handled the dead, not the living. When I remained silent, her eyes welled with tears. If it is too much, then never mind. Seeing her pitiful state, I sighed. Don't worry, your parents should be fine. Things are too crazy right now for anything else to go wrong. Mom, I'm heading out. I told Peizuwaru. She froze. Going out? Where to? I'll have the driver take you. No need. I'll take a cab. A driver just gets in the way of business. But Zhao Chun hasn't gone out alone since returning. He doesn't know hate. What if he gets lost? I saw her worry. Mom, it's fine. I know the way. Besides, I can just give the driver the address. Nothing to worry about. Still no. There are too many bad people out there. Tell you what, I'll have your fourth sister go with you. She can run your errands. She immediately had someone wake up Muhuwei, who was sleeping in. Hearing Muhuwei lost her temper. Mom, I'm his older sister, not his sidekick. If you're worried, just send the driver. Why make me go? I'm not doing it. She glared at me as she winced. I shot her an annoyed, sideways glance back. My face was full of disgust. Do you think I want you tagging along? Mom is the one insisting. Mom, look at him. Muhuwei yelled, pointing her finger at me. Peizuru slapped her hand down. You're going, like it or not. You said it yourself. You're Zhao Chun's older sister. You have so many complaints about helping your younger brother with an errand. What do you think you're doing? Peizuwaru glared at her sternly. Muhuwei was instantly cowed, her attitude deflated. It's settled. Eat your breakfast. Zhao Chun needs to leave. Tearfully, she drew back her hand. Where exactly are we going? Muhuwei grumbled once we got in the car. Since I had free labor, why not use it? I casually told her to drive. I'll direct you. Keep going. Treating her like a drive. Muhuwei was furious but helpless. She drove around following my directions. The surroundings grew increasingly unfamiliar and the roads got narrower. Even she got confused. Living in Hashi for years, she never knew such a place existed. Muhuwei obediently parked the car outside a rundown residential area. Sitting in the driver's seat, she stared outside, utterly confused. Right, wait for me here. I got out, slammed the door, and walked off, leaving her no chance to question me. For a moment she wanted to ask what I was actually doing, but my attitude was so infuriating that she just gave up. I slipped into the compound smoothly and headed straight for one of the buildings. The old neighborhood had awful greenery, with peeling walls. The building was in terrible shape, without even an elevator. The stairs were crumbling into... I walked all the way up to the 4th floor and turned left. Once there, I could faintly hear crying. If I wasn't mistaken, It was coming from the Wen family's home. Standing at their door, I knocked on the door. I need to get an assistant ASAP. How did a grand prince and young master like me end up doing all the dirty work? It really doesn't fit my status. Inside, the noise stopped. Footsteps approached, and a voice came from behind the door. Who is it? A voice asked. I am a friend of Wen Yimo, I replied. Silence fell before the door cracked open. Someone peeked out, relaxing slightly when they saw my youthful face. Are you Shamo's co-worker? I nodded. Only then did they open the door and let me inside. I did not waste time. I know when Yimo was murdered, I said. Her parents were not old, but they had aged terribly since her death. Their once jet-black hair was now streaked with silver, and deep wrinkles lined their grief-stricken faces, reflecting a suppressed rage. How do you know? She gasped. How do you know Shamo was murdered? Do you know something? Please, tell me. The mother, previously listless, suddenly became hysterical and grabbed my hand in a tight grip. I can see Wen Yimo and I can help you, I said. Both parents froze, unable to comprehend my words. Their daughter was scared. How could I possibly see her? Even though they had refused cremation to uncover the truth, keeping her in the cold morgue was a secret, and surely this young man had not gone there. A ridiculous thought crossed their minds. I can see your daughter's soul. I can help fulfill your wishes, I said. The mother's weeping stopped. She stared at me through her tears, utterly dazed. Their wish, of course, was to catch the killer and make them pay. No, that was not enough. A prison sentence would never be enough. How could a few years behind bars compare to their daughter's life? Whoever destroyed her needed to pay a devastating price. A fierce hatred flared deep in her eyes. Whatever you want, I can make it happen, I said, laying it out clearly. But you must pay a price. Aside from merit, I must also collect the purest human emotions, the truest goodness, and deepest attachments. The gate of rebirth leads to new life. Life represents beginnings, hope, and joy, while death brings endings, despair, and grief. Together, life and death form a continuous cycle. Between these cycles lie selfishness, greed, hypocrisy, and malice. I must collect these to purify resentment and maintain a spiritual balance. Hearing my words, the mother replied without a single second of hesitation, whatever you need. As long as you help us, I will give you everything, even my life. I smiled gently. It is not that extreme. I then laid out everything I had learned from Wen Yimo, hiding absolutely nothing. Hearing the truth, the couple broke down, weeping once more. I sighed softly. Watching loved ones torn apart by death is truly the hardest thing to accept. Mother Wen suddenly fell to her knees, weeping, and slammed her forehead against the floor. I want them to pay, she sobbed through her hatred. I want them to live in regret forever. Both parents were consumed by guilt. Why hadn't they noticed their daughter's struggle sooner? If they'd only known, they would have made her quit and moved away together. Father Wen tried to hold it together, but tears streamed down his face as his hands shook. He covered his face, unable to hide his raw grief. Me too, he choked out. I want them to pay. I told the parents to wait for my news, then walked out. Peering through the car window, I saw Mu Yue fast asleep, her mouth half open. My mouth twitched. Sis, I'd reject her even as a younger sister. I was about to knock on the car window to wake her, but stopped. I'd been trying to figure out how to ditch Mu Yue anyway. Since she's fast asleep, I'll just let her keep sleeping. So I turned on my heel, leaving Mu Yue snoring in the car. Granting Wen Yimo's parents' wish would be easy. With my abilities, I could easily teach those people a lesson they'd never forget, completely undetected. But that wouldn't truly satisfy what they want deep down. For now, I need to expose the truth first. Thinking about what happened to Wen Yimo makes even me sigh. If justice isn't served here, who will ever dare to do a good deed again? It's sad. Society is racing ahead, but human nature hasn't kept pace with economic growth. Instead, people have only grown more selfish. This materialistic world has dragged out the ugliest parts of humanity. It makes me think of my own past. When I was the age of these kids, I was already a real man, capable of starting a family and supporting a household. My expression froze for a moment, a wave of confusion washing over me. How long has it been since I last thought of my past? It's been so long that I've almost forgotten. I wasn't always the young lord. I faintly remember that before taking on that title, I was just an ordinary mortal in the living world. It was only after death that I entered the city of the dead. It was so long ago that I can't even recall how I became its young lord. The thought vanished as quickly as it came, and my figure faded away. Passers-by didn't even blink. Everyone was in such a rush that nobody noticed a teenager beside them suddenly vanishing into thin air. I thought my errand would be quick, but it dragged on until late. Once I got busy, I completely forgot about Mu Yue. After finishing up, I headed straight home. The moment I walked in, I felt the heavy, tense atmosphere in the living room. Before I could say a word, Pei Zueru threw her arms around me, her voice trembling. You're finally back. You scared me to death. I thought something happened to you. My father looked visibly relieved to see me, repeating how glad he was that I was back. He'd been terrified that I had run away. I blinked, realizing what was happening a second too late. Just as I opened my mouth to explain, my sister, who had apparently been lectured all night, Mu exploded. Furious, she snapped at me. Mu-chan, are you out of your mind? Couldn't you have told us where you were going? Do you have any idea how worried we were? We've been looking for you all day. I shrank back a bit, feeling a little guilty. I really did. You shut up, Paisley snapped, pulling me close as she glared at her fourth daughter. It must be your fault. You must have upset Zhao Chun, driving him to leave like that. You're always picking on him. How many times do I have to tell you? He is your own blood brother. Mu looked like she was about to lose her mind at our mother's utter lack of logic. Mom, be reasonable. I didn't do a single thing to him today, she yelled. Seeing the two of them on the verge of a screaming match, I quickly stepped in. Mom, please don't be mad. Let me explain. This really wasn't fourth sister's fault. She didn't do anything, and we didn't even argue. Then why did you leave her behind? My mother asked. You haven't been here long and don't know the city. Going out alone is dangerous. You could easily get lost, especially since you barely know how to use a smartphone. You wouldn't even know how to open a map. I gave an honest answer. I went to handle some business and told her to wait. When I got back, she was fast asleep, so I figured she woke up too early and needed rest. You might as well have said nothing. Mu glared, clearly wondering if I was doing this on purpose. Ignoring her furious look, I kept speaking honestly. So I left. I figured I'd be back so quickly that she wouldn't even be awake. But things dragged on much longer than expected. I didn't mean to get her into trouble. I honestly didn't think it would turn into this. Then why didn't you answer your phone? She demanded. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. Looking at it with confusion, I said, I didn't hear it ring. Mom had set this thing up for me and reminded me to keep it close before I left. But I genuinely heard nothing. Mu snatched it right out of my hand and woke up the screen. She let out a frustrated laugh, shoving the screen in my face. Are you blind? Your phone is on silent. I stared at the device and blinked innocently. I really didn't know. I'd never owned a phone before. So how was I supposed to know how it worked? Just as she was about to yell again, Mom flicked her hard on the forehead. Mu groaned, clutching her head. If you hadn't been asleep in that car, he wouldn't have gone off alone just to be considerate. So, this is entirely your fault. You were supposed to help him, but instead you slept like a log. Your allowance for this month is officially suspended, Mom declared. What? No allowance? It's only the third day of the month, Mu cried. Then, Mom turned her sharp gaze to the others. If anyone dares to secretly bail her out, your own allowance is gone next month. She then glared at her eldest daughter, Mu Wanting. And you, if you give her a single cent, I'll arrange a blind date for you tomorrow. Wanting's face went pale, and she quickly straightened up. Don't worry, Mom, Wanting answered quickly. I won't give her a dime. I'll even keep an eye on the others to make sure they don't either. Eldest sister, Mu wailed. Wanting gave her a sympathetic but helpless look. Don't blame me, little sister. Better you than me. Where did you and Zhao Chun go today? Mujuan hadn't dared to challenge Mom downstairs, but once everyone went to their rooms, he slipped into Muyue's room to offer some comfort. After playing the caring brother, he casually asked about our outing, but mentioning me only made Mu boil with anger. She felt like her new brother was a curse sent to ruin her life. Still, she patiently recounted the trip to Mujuan, but as for where I went or what I did after leaving her in the car, she had no clue. Mujuan frowned. He didn't recognize that rundown neighborhood either. Wealthy heirs like them only frequented high-end establishments, so they'd never set foot in, or even know about such a shabby district. He pondered it for a moment, but since nothing made sense, he dropped it. Yet, back in his room, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Just then, his friend Jiang Yan called. Still preoccupied, Mujuan ended up venting about what happened. He never expected Jiang Yan to gasp on the other end. Wait, did he go to Wenyemo's house? Hearing that name hit Mujuan like a physical blow. Mujuan froze, his grip tightening on the phone. Why would he go to Wenyemo's place? He doesn't even know her. Jiang Yan gritted his teeth and finally confessed what had happened. That afternoon, hearing the truth, Mujuan gasped, his limbs going entirely numb with shock. He had no idea Jiang Yan was involved. Ayang, did you? Mujuan's throat tightened, his heart leaping into his mouth as his mind raced. If Jiang Yan was truly tied to this mess, what on earth was he going to do? Although Mujuan wasn't there himself, the bullying incident had already been exposed online by Wenyemo's parents. If the police investigated, he tried to calm his racing heart, repeating to himself that he had never personally laid a hand on it. At worst, he had only. Mujuan mentally ran through his past actions, desperately checking if he'd left any evidence or incriminating trail. Juan, are you even listening? Jiang Yan's voice broke through the silence, sounding confused after getting no response. Mujuan snapped out of his daze. Steadying his voice, he replied, I'm here. What are you going to do? Her parents aren't backing down. Jiang Yan quickly cut him off. It'll be fine. Neither the school nor our parents will let this blow up. In the end, they'll just scapegoat a few people to apologize and pay some compensation. Honestly, the college kids did the actual dirty work. We didn't do much. Besides, our parents and the school will protect their own reputations. Mujuan frowned deeply. He had a bad feeling that things wouldn't be that simple. Jiang Yan, however, wasn't worried about the mall's security cameras. He'd already had the footage wiped. His dad was close with the mall's management, so deleting it took one call. Even without that connection, no one would dare cross the Jiang family. My only worry right now is what Mu Chun might know, Jiang Yan confessed. When I ran into him in the hallway that day, the way he looked at me, and then the bizarre things he said when he invited me over, it was like he already knew everything. That was what kept Jiang Yan up at night, though he kept the worst details to himself. Hearing this, Mu Zhuan froze as he remembered the cryptic warning I'd given him while we watched the news together. His face drained of color. I might really have seen who did it. Even if I hadn't caught their faces, I definitely saw them tormenting the girl. If I decided to talk, the fallout would be catastrophic. The mere thought made Mu Zhuan panic. Forcing himself to stay calm, he whispered, Yan, Mu Chun definitely knows something. He literally asked me if I played a part in Wen Yimo's case. He hasn't told my parents yet, but you need to warn the others immediately. Tell them they're on their own. Mu Zhuan's warning threw Zheng Yan into a complete panic. Hanging up abruptly, he began dialing their friends one by one. Left alone, Mu Zhuan ground his teeth, regret finally creeping in. Why did they ever target Wen Yimo just for helping that miserable kid? She couldn't protect him forever anyway. Why did they have to push her so hard? Back then, he simply hated her self-righteous attitude. She looked so noble, making them look like monsters. Annoyed, he had egged on his classmates, initially only wanting to give her a warning so she'd learn to mind her own business. He never anticipated it would escalate to this level. He began to curse his friends silently. He'd only suggested a minor prank, but they got addicted and wouldn't leave Wen Yimo alone. They just wanted an easy target. Well, now they had pushed too far, and if Wen Yimo hadn't threatened to expose them with a recording, he wouldn't have panicked. Mu Zhuan tried to guess my moves, assuming I'd only seen the mall confrontation but didn't know the whole story. After all, I didn't even know how to use a smartphone. How could I uncover their secrets? It was a comforting delusion, but reality was ruthless. By the third day, the internet exploded with news. To his utter horror, the deleted security footage had mysteriously resurfaced and was leaked online. Every clip of them tormenting and humiliating Wen Yimo was on full display. When Mu Zhuan came downstairs, he saw me sitting on the couch, eyes glued to the TV. The news anchor was covering the scandal. Staring at the familiar footage, he nearly choked. His legs buckled. As he stood there trembling, Mom walked into the room. Seeing him leaning heavily against the railing, ghostly pale and visibly shaken, she frowned and asked, Zhuan, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so pale? Are you sick? Her voice caught my attention. I turned around, locking eyes with Mu Zhuan's terrified gaze. Feeling a sudden wave of amusement, I flashed him a cold, knowing smile. Mom is talking to you. Mu Zhuan's lips trembled as he stammered. No, Mom. Yes, Paizuru said, giving me a strange look. Seeing the news on my screen, she asked, Chun, you seem really focused on this story. Why is that? I answered bluntly. Well, since you and Dad want me to study that, I should probably do some research. Her body tensed up as a terrifying thought struck her. If these kids could do something so awful to an outsider, what would they do to their own classmates? If I was going to a school like that, she couldn't bear to finish that thought. Ignoring that Dad had just stepped out, she rushed to grab her phone. No way. You are not going there. Annex 1, you need to transfer immediately. There's zero safety at a school like that. How can you study when your life is in danger? I'm finding you both a new school. Mu Zhuan froze. Why was she suddenly talking about transferring? He had never even considered it. He knew his school, his friends were there, his whole social circle was there. Switch schools halfway through senior year. How would they even prepare for college exams? He opened his mouth to protest, but knew he couldn't stop his mother. Desperate, he looked my way, hoping I would speak up. But as for which school I went to, it didn't matter to me. I didn't even glance his way. He was left staring helplessly as Mom died. Meanwhile, once the video of Wen Yimo's incident leaked, the school rushed to issue a public apology. They promised to strengthen moral education. The milk tea shop owner wept bitterly, and most of the bullies apologized on camera, tears and snot streaming down their faces in fake remorse. Back in my room, Wen Yimo stared at the screen, gritting her teeth in anger. They don't mean a word of it, she spat. They don't think they did anything wrong. I nodded gently. You're right. Most people never truly repent. If this hadn't leaked and sparked an online uproar with everyone demanding answers, they and their parents would have never apologized. They wouldn't have cared at all. Why feel guilty over a dead nobody? To them, she was gone. So who cared? Others couldn't see it, but I could. While they mouthed those words, their eyes showed total indifference, even anger. They hated the public for forcing their hand. To these rich kids, their reputation mattered far more than Wen Yimo's life. Before she died, Yimo had been filled with a deep, painful confusion. She couldn't understand what she did wrong. Was it a crime to be kind and stand up for justice? She only tried to help, yet they shunned her. Using their family's wealth, they crushed her peaceful life. And on that day, at the mall, they argued, and she fell over the railing. Just like that, her life ended. Now, They beg for a second chance. But who gives her a second chance? They never spared her one. As she relived it, her dark energy began to boil. The room's temperature plummeted, and an icy wind rattled the furniture. I looked up at my swaying ceiling light and quickly tried to calm her down. How about I let you get even yourself? Instantly, as if someone hit pause, the room went completely still. Me, but I can't get near them, she said, frowning. She desperately wanted revenge, but some invisible barrier kept pushing her away whenever she tried to get close. Otherwise, she would have torn them apart long ago. Just because you can't, doesn't mean I can't, I replied calmly. They have guilty It's only natural for ghosts to haunt them, and I was right. Out of sheer paranoia after her death, a few of those bullies had actually started wearing protective amulets, especially the one who pushed her. They tried to act tough, but they were terrified, keeping blessed Jade close. Since Emo had been a gentle soul, she couldn't instantly become a vengeful spirit. That's why she couldn't reach them. But those cheap charms were nothing to me. Hearing this, Emo's eyes lit up with hope. If you can help me, that would be amazing. Just remember one thing, I warned her. You cannot physically harm them. Sometimes, dying is too easy. Death is an escape, not a punishment. If you take a life, you'll never be able to I kept my tone dead serious. Yumo was a good person who loved helping others. Under normal circumstances, she would have had a wonderful next life. But if she stained her hands with blood, everything would change. Why ruin her future for a bunch of Yumo bit her lip, struggling with her anger. Finally, she nodded. Fine, I won't kill them, but I want them to suffer. I want them trapped in a living nightmare. I tapped a glowing talisman onto her, watching it dissolve into her spirit. Before she could even gasp, a surge of raw supernatural energy filled her. Go, I whispered. But take your time. Patience is key. If you run into any trouble, just call my name and I'll be there. Tears welled up in her eyes. The world was full of cruel bullies who preyed on the weak. But there were also good people, people like me, complete strangers who fought for her online, and me, who had no obligation to help but still went all out. Now that she had my permission to unleash her anger, she didn't waste a second. She vanished from my room instantly. It had only been a few days since her fall. At first, the culprit was terrified after all. They'd killed someone. But that fear quickly evaporated into arrogance. Kids born into privilege are raised to believe they are untouchable. They truly believe they are superior, viewing ordinary people as beneath them. To them, money solves everything. And if money fails, power steps in. Zheng Yan wasn't the one who pushed her, but he was right there, helping them corner her. Zheng Yan had been on edge lately. He had barely heard the news from Muchuan before the whole thing blew up. When he finally confessed to his parents, they chewed him out, but his anxiety quickly faded. Even though they scolded him, they would never let him take the fall. With the Jiang family's massive influence, sweeping his involvement under the rug was child's play. He wasn't worried anymore. At worst, he'd just transfer. C-City had plenty of elite private schools anyway. He wasn't afraid of running out of options. Leaning against his headboard, he watched a comedy show on his phone, laughing hysterically. He didn't look affected at all. When Yumo floated into his room, this was the sight that met her. Pure rage surged through her. These people didn't feel a shred of guilt. They would never change. To them, anyone beneath their social status was worth less than a stray dog. As Yamo's fury boiled over, the heavy crystal chandelier above him began to sway violently. The bulbs flickered, buzzing with static electricity, as if the wiring was failing. Startled, Zhang Yan looked up at the ceiling, muttering to himself, "What the hell? Is this thing broken?" He stared at it, but once it stopped he shrugged it off. But the moment he looked back at his phone, the lights flickered again, buzzing louder. I know he got out of bed to check the wall switch, but his hand froze in a cold sweat. The switch was completely dead. The lights turned off and on all by themselves. Worse, the window was shut tight, yet an icy breeze swept through the room. Suddenly, his mind raced too when his face turned pale. He bolted for the door, grabbing the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "Open up. Someone help me. Please, get me out of here." Panic completely overtook him, and he began to scream at the top of his lungs. His shrieks were blood. In the dead of night, the terrifying sound sent the rest of the household into a panic. Heart pounding, they rushed toward his bedroom. Father Zhang pounded on the door, shouting, "Zhang Yan, what's wrong? Open the door. What are you doing in there?" "I can't. There's a ghost. Save me." Zhang Yan shrieked, slamming himself against the wood. The raw, unfiltered terror in his voice chilled everyone standing in the hallway. "Stop this nonsense. There are no ghosts," his father barked. "Don't scare yourself. The lock is probably just jammed. Calm down while I get the keys." He exchanged a tense, worried look with his wife, both thinking of the recent scandal. Father Zhang looked grim. He was furious but also deeply worried. Clearly, his son's guilty conscience was playing tricks on him. Thank goodness they lived in a private, detached estate. Otherwise, these screams would have woken up the entire neighborhood. A servant rushed over with the keys, but the lock wouldn't turn. Inside, Zhang Yan's screams grew more frantic, mixed with the sharp crash of breaking glass and shattering lights. Finally, after a massive thud, the locked door swung wide open. The family burst inside, only to find absolute chaos. The once luxurious bedroom was completely trashed. Ornaments were smashed on the floor, the lampshade hung crookedly, curtains were ripped apart, and the massive crystal chandelier lay shattered in pieces. Shards of glass covered every inch of the room, and the carpet was torn up. The family stood frozen in shock. Then, they saw Jiang Yan collapse behind the door, unconscious and drenched in cold sweat. They scrambled to carry him out. They rushed him to the family doctor. After a quick examination, the doctor looked deeply confused. Young Master Jiang seems to have suffered an extreme shock. Did something terrifying happen to him? The parents looked pale. Father Jiang forced a tight smile. Honestly, we aren't sure. He was just in his room. We assumed he was asleep until we heard him scream. What else could they say? Confess that their son had a guilty conscience and saw a ghost. Even if he was shameless, the family had a reputation to protect. The doctor didn't press further. He's physically fine, but the gash on his forehead is deep. I'm afraid it might leave a permanent scar. Their faces fell. Soon after the doctor left, Jiang Yan woke up, still trembling in sheer, mindless terror. He fell right into a terrifying nightmare. It wasn't me. I didn't hurt you. I didn't push you downstairs. Go away. Leave me alone. His eyes were squeezed shut, yet his hands thrashed and struggled wildly. His face covered in sheer panic and extreme terror. Hearing his frantic words, Mother Jiang's face turned pale. Jiang Yan, wake up. You're just having a nightmare. You're fine. Wake up. She frantically slapped his cheeks but got no response. Finally, she steeled herself and delivered a sharp slap, finally jolting him awake. Jiang Yan opened his eyes, saw his mother, and burst into tears. He threw himself into her arms, clutching her clothes tightly as he trembled violently. Mom, there's a ghost. I saw her. It's when Yamoshi is back to get revenge on me. He kept screaming that she wanted his life, claiming she tried to strangle him. He never believed in ghosts, but he clearly saw what happened in that room. Something that defied all logic, and he really saw her wearing those exact clothes from that day. It was really when Yimo's ghost. Jiang Yan, you've lost your mind, his mother scolded. There are no ghosts, you're just scaring yourself. Don't worry about that incident. Our family can handle it. No one can hurt you. Just be good. In a few days, this will all blow over. Jiang's mother looked pale and anxious, but she kept holding him close, feeling safe in her arms. He slowly calmed down. To completely convince him, she dragged him back to the bedroom. It had already been cleaned by the servants. Look, the chandelier just fell because it wasn't installed, right? As for everything else, you've left the window cracked. Didn't you notice how windy it is today? Of course the wind would blow things around, and you call yourself an educated man. His mother teased, gently tapping his forehead. Her face was so calm and natural that even Jiang Yan began to doubt his own eyes. Had he just become paranoid, scaring himself over nothing? Go sleep in the guest room tonight, she said. We will clean up tomorrow, and we won't put that heavy chandelier back. It is too dangerous. Jiang Yan hesitantly followed her. Jiang Yan, what nonsense are you talking? Mu Xuan scoffed. Did you watch a horror movie and scare yourself into seeing things? He couldn't believe his friend called him over for this absurdity. It was impossible. Yet, after just one night, Jiang Yan looked completely withered and paranoid. He glanced around nervously, lowering his voice. No, Juan, it is real. I swear it is true. I saw her ghost last night in my room. She trashed my room and said she was here for revenge. Then, after I fell asleep, my blanket literally floated into the air. I saw it with my own eyes. Jiang Yan's eyes filled with terror as he spoke. Last night his mother had calmed him down. Seeing no activity, he had fallen asleep. But soon, a freezing chill woke him up. Despite the thick duvet and the warm room, he was shivering. He opened his eyes, and the duvet covering him was floating in mid. He screamed, but this time, no one came. His voice felt completely cut off from the world. Terrified, he scrambled under the bed, but there was nowhere to hide. When Yemo's voice echoed through the room like it was coming straight from hell. He barely survived the night, with deep dark circles and a manic, terrified gaze. Any sudden noise made him jump. Mu Xuan frowned deeply. He knew it sounded impossible, but his friend didn't seem to be lying. While Mu Xuan hesitated, Jiang Yan stared at him with an eerie, hollow gaze. Juan, he whispered, when Yemo came for me, and that means she won't let you off either. Mu Xuan's heart skipped a beat, and he hissed in a low voice to refute him. Jiang Yan, are you insane? There are no ghosts in this world. Get a grip. Besides, her accident had nothing to do with you, and even less to do with me. Hearing this, Jiang Yan's expression turned vacant as he muttered to himself. Right, I didn't push her, why would she come after me? I only gave them an idea that day, I didn't force her. It's her own fault for being careless. She's already dead, so why is she still haunting me? The more he thought, the more his fear turned into a desperate malice. His bloodshot, frantic eyes filled with a ruthless determination. You want to haunt me as a ghost? I'll hire a master to banish you. I'll make sure your soul is shattered and you can't even exist as a spirit. Once he had a plan, Jiang Yan couldn't sit still for another second. He blurted out a word and rushed off, but he was being naive. The Jiang family didn't believe him at all, thinking he was just having a mental breakdown. Mother Jiang tried to soothe him, but she stubbornly refused to hire a master. Although high society valued feng shui and hired experts to arrange their estates for wealth and luck, ghosts were dismissed as pure nonsense. But just as Jiang Yan's anxiety reached a boiling point, another terrifying event occurred, completely shattering his sanity. Even Daimok Xuan was so terrified that he fell ill. The classmate who had led the bullying suddenly came down with a severe sickness and was rushed to the emergency room overnight. Though she survived, her mind broke, and she curled up in bed, muttering the words "I was wrong" over and over. Her heartbroken parents wept, insisting someone had harmed their daughter, pointing fingers at Wen Yimo's parents, but an investigation proved it was impossible. The Wens lived far away, at least an hour's drive from their house. On top of that, they had an airtight alibi, and had never even set foot near the area. There were no signs of forced entry, and the security system was untouched. Wen Yimo was just an ordinary worker, but a tragic death sparked massive outrage, turning it into a hot topic. Because the case highlighted the stark gap between the rich and poor, the public anger only intensified. The wealthy parents of the bullies tried to pay to take down the trending topics, but every time they did, the posts bounced back even higher, exposing their personal info and forcing them to play dead. Even after several days, the online discussion never died down. So when news of the bullies' sudden death spread, the internet showed no mercy. While everyone felt immense pity and sympathy for Wen Yu, they felt absolutely none for the bully. After all, people aren't blind. It was pure karma. She had indirectly caused a death, and now she'd paid with her own life. You don't get a free pass just by saying sorry. She was so cold-blooded at such a young age. Now when Yimo's soul could finally rest, as when Yimo wept uncontrollably, I sat quietly beside her. I watched her cry, offering no words of comfort or hollow pity. Once she calmed down, I spoke softly. "All right, your wish is fulfilled. It's time to go." The ones responsible for her fall had been scared to death. She hadn't raised a hand. Their own guilty consciences had destroyed them. When your heart is full of malice, everything looks like a ghost. It wasn't good for her to linger in the mortal realm any longer. She slowly stopped weeping, looked up at me, and asked in a small, pleading voice, "Can I see my parents one last time?" I looked back and firmly refused. "There's no need. Your parents have finally started to heal. Seeing you now would only reopen their wounds and make them bleed all over again." She froze, looking down as she realized the truth. "However," I added, "I can let you visit their dreams. Go say your goodbyes there." She looked up, deeply grateful. "Thank you," she whispered. I replied bluntly, "It's just a fair trade." She knew that while I had helped her seek justice, it was exactly as I see the mutual exchange. I helped punish the wicked and dissolve her deep-seated resentment, sparing her parents from the threat of retaliation by the elites. Now she could depart in peace. That night, father and mother Wen slept deeply, their first peaceful rest since their daughter's tragedy. In their dreams, they saw her just as she used to be, sweet, innocent, and wearing a brilliant smile as she told them she was leaving and they had to take care of themselves. At the end she mentioned she had received help from a master. For some reason the couple instantly thought of the young man who had claimed to be their daughter's friend. They eagerly questioned her, but she only smiled and said nothing. She waved goodbye one last time and vanished from their dream. Tears rolled down their cheeks in their sleep, knowing their daughter was truly gone. Perhaps a beautiful afterlife really existed, and she would have a wonderful next life, growing up safe and healthy, free from all the regrets of this one. Even though she hadn't confirmed it, they felt certain that the master she spoke of was the young boy who had visited their home. He was clearly no ordinary person. When they woke, they wondered how to thank me, only to find me standing in their living room once again. Seeing me, they immediately tried to kneel and thank me for fulfilling their daughter's final wish. I held up a hand to stop them. "Do you remember what I told you? My help comes with a price. Now is the time for my payment. Are you willing to give it?" "Yes, anything we have." They spoke with absolute sincerity. Seeing the deep kindness in their eyes, I smiled and nodded. "Good, now, close your eyes and focus on offering the greatest reward you can give me." The couple looked at each other, and without a single question or hesitation they slowly closed their eyes with utmost devotion. A moment later I watched a wisp of pure golden light rise from the crowns of their heads, and a satisfied smile crept onto my face. This was the light of their accumulated merits. The purer the light, the deeper their gratitude and the greater the sacrifice they were willing to make. This was the ultimate payment I sought. I pulled out an exquisite blessing pouch, gave my hand a gentle wave, and let the twin golden lights slip inside before tying the drawstring. "All right," I said in a relaxed tone. "I've received your payment. You are both good, kind-hearted people. It is because of the virtue and karma you've built up that when Yima was able to cross paths." The couple froze, and Mother Wen couldn't help but ask, "If that's true, then why did our daughter still have to gaze at her quietly?" When Yima was destined to face this calamity, Though her life in this world was cut short, your lifetime of good deeds ensures she will reincarnate smoothly into an even better family. She will grow up safe, get married, have children, and live a long, happy life. Is that really true? Mother Wen's eyes shimmered with a faint hope. Of course. That is wonderful, truly wonderful. She choked out through her tears. Before leaving, I wanted to say a little more, but I swallowed my words, realizing there was no need. The Wens had spent their lives doing good deeds. Though they had lost a beloved child, they would eventually be blessed with another. When Yimo's departure was painful, but it paved the way for a new beginning. When I finally returned home, I happened to run into the doctor leaving. Seeing the doctor, I raised an eyebrow. Mujuan was bedridden, and despite seeing several physicians, his condition hadn't improved at all, leaving the Mu family frantic with worry. Of course, that didn't include me. Pei Zueru walked down, her brow furrowed, though her expression softened slightly upon seeing me. Zhao Chun, you're back. Did you finish what you had to do? If anything is bothering you, you must tell me. Don't bottle it up. Yes, Mom, everything went smoothly. That's good. Pei Zueru nodded softly, though a heavy sadness still lingered in her eyes. With Zhao Xuan sick like this, I can't bear for anything to happen to you either. I don't understand what's wrong with him. He was fine, and then suddenly fell ill. The hospital checkups showed nothing. We've tried different doctors, meds, and injections, but nothing works. It's worrying me to death. What did the doctor say, Mom? Seeing me take the initiative to ask about Muchuan, Pei Zueru seemed pleased, thinking I secretly cared about my brother despite my cold exterior. They still say it's stress and anxiety, but how is that possible? He's just a child. What could he possibly be stressed about, to the point of falling this sick? I think these doctors are just If Zhao Zuan had fallen ill right after finding out about his true origin, I might have believed him, but that was over a month ago. He was perfectly fine until now, so there must be another reason. But when they asked Zhao Xuan, he couldn't explain it either. I gave a knowing smile. Maybe the doctor was right, it was all in his head. Isn't there a saying about mental blocks needing mental cures? Pei Shuedo froze. A mental block? How could Zhao Xuan have that? I flashed a perfectly innocent smile and said, then you'll have to ask him what he's done. Pei Zueru shot a suspicious look at her son. Honestly, I didn't care about Mu. His drama was none of my business. But his sudden collapse had turned our house completely upside down, leaving our parents worried, sick. Even my mom's beautifully maintained eyes were getting fine lines from all the stress. I paused, keeping my voice soft. Mom, did you see the recent news online? The incident at the mall. Of course she remembered it instantly. She had been following the updates closely, since it was such a massive scandal. But isn't that over? She asked. The girl had fallen, and the mall footage leaked after the culprit literally died of fright, causing a massive public outcry. She actually knew the victim's parents. They weren't close, but she never expected things to end like this. Now even their company was suffering, and rumor had it they were moving away. She sighed, still confused. But what does that have to do with Shut? I replied casually. Well, Zhongyan has it even worse. He's screaming every day about seeing the dead girl's ghost. He was at the mall that day too, just lucky enough to hide in the back where the cameras missed him. Once his classmate died, he got scared half to death. Suddenly the puzzle pieces clicked for Pei. Her eyes went wide with sheer disbelief. I didn't openly accuse Muxuan of being involved, but I knew she would connect the dots herself. Zheng Yan and Muxuan were best friends, attending the same school and class. If Zheng Yan had done something that awful, could Muxuan really be completely clueless? It was impossible, and she knew it. Her face turned pale. I left it at that and walked away. That night, when Dad got home from work, Mom broke the news to him. Hearing it left him absolutely stunned. After all, in his eyes, Zhao Xuan had always been the golden child sweet. And well, how could he do something so horrific? But remembering the boy's bizarre behavior lately, Dad's heart sank. Together, they marched into Muxuan's bedroom. He looked up as they entered, struggling to sit up in bed. He mumbled, Mom, Dad, what's going on? He looked awful abnormally pale, eyes bloodshot and exhausted. He was clearly forcing himself to stay awake. Honestly, he didn't look like someone who had been sick for a few days. He looked like he had been suffering for months. Dad sat down, his face incredibly stern. Zhao Xuan, we need to ask you something, and I expect the absolute truth. Muxuan flinched, instinctively glancing at Mom. When he saw her equally cold expression, a wave of panic hit him. He nodded weakly, trying to hide his fear. Okay, go ahead. Dad didn't beat around the bush. Were you involved in that girl's incident? The sudden question caught Muxuan completely off guard. Before he could mask his reaction, his face gave everything away to both of them. The sheer terror on his face confirmed it. A profound disappointment filled my parents' eyes. The sweet, innocent boy they thought they raised was a total lie. They certainly never taught him to behave like this, and my mom was especially heartbroken by his cruelty. She had poured her heart into raising him, never neglecting his morals or values. She wasn't like other wealthy socialites who just dumped their kids on private tutors. She had always tried to teach him right from wrong. Yet, this was the result of her efforts. Why had Chao Shuin targeted his classmate? Why did he show no remorse when caught, leading to such a tragic accident? Meeting their disappointed gazes, Muxuan realized the game was up. The crushing weight of fear and guilt he had been carrying for weeks finally broke him. He burst into hysterical, breathless sobs. "Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry," he wailed, trying to defend himself through his tears. "I know I messed up. I really do. I never wanted any of this to happen. I didn't do anything directly to her. I swear. I just didn't know it would end like that." Dad was so furious he could barely speak. "You didn't know. Are you a clueless? You are 17. You have had years of elite schooling, yet you don't even have basic moral standards. Why did you do this? Was your entire well-behaved act in front of us just a lie? Why did you bully her?" Muxuan bit his lip, his eyes darting around in panic. He was terrified to speak the truth, knowing how ugly his jealousy would sound. He had always been the golden boy, the center of attention wherever he went. But then that classmate showed up, stole his spotlight, and snatched the top spot right out of his hands. He knew his burning jealousy was wrong, but he just couldn't control it. "Are you still trying to hide it?" Mom snapped, rising to her feet. Muxuan began to tremble violently, his pale lips quivering as he confessed. His voice grew fainter with shame. Listening to him, Mom looked like she was about to pass out from pure shock. It was sickening. Just because someone was better than him, he let his jealousy consume him, getting his friends to isolate her. And when he was caught, instead of apologizing, he used our family's influence to threaten her. Why didn't he just work harder to beat her? Instead, he resorted to underhanded tactics. Mom stared at him, feeling like she was looking at a complete stranger. Had she ever truly known her own son? The cold disappointment in her eyes, terrified. He lunged forward, throwing his arms tightly around her waist. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he sobbed hysterically. "I didn't mean to. I only wanted to humiliate her a little. I never wanted to hurt her, I swear. I had absolutely nothing to do with what the others did to her later on. I really didn't. I wasn't at the mall that day, and Zhang Yan never told me anything until the news broke. If I had been there, I would have stopped them. Dad, please believe me, I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I made a terrible mistake, and I'll never do it again. I promise. I'll work hard and never be jealous again. Please, you have to believe me," he begged desperately. He knew he wasn't their biological child, he was just adopted. If they completely gave up on him now, he would have absolutely nothing left. Would they throw him out and send him away? Where would he even go? His nerves were already shredded after hearing about his classmates' bizarre fates and how the ringleader had literally died of fright. The psychological pressure had reached its absolute limit. Now that my parents knew everything, his mind was racing with terrifying thoughts of being abandoned. Regret, panic, and sheer despair crashed over him all at once. Combined with days of zero sleep, his body simply couldn't take the stress anymore. In a fit of panic, his breath caught, and he fainted right there. The house erupted into pure chaos. Everyone rushed to his bedroom, but I stayed put. Muiwei couldn't help but complain under her breath, which Mom overheard. Already furious, Mom snapped. Hearing her second daughter defend Muxuan while attacking me was the last straw. Mom lashed out with rare fury. "Why are you constantly targeting Zhao Chun? He's your biological brother, not your enemy. Besides, is he a doctor? Why does it matter if he's here?" Mom was usually pretty easygoing, only threatening to punish us but never actually raising her voice. This sudden, harsh scolding left Mu Yue completely stunned. Just then, Mu Wanting and the twins walked through the door, exchanging confused glances as they took in the tension. They all knew something major had happened behind closed doors. The sisters could feel the heavy, tense atmosphere, confirming their suspicions. But as usual, I was the only one completely unaffected. I just went about my day, minding my own business. I spent my days glued to the TV. Plans to hire me a private tutor had been put on hold, leaving me with zero responsibilities while the others drowned in homework. Honestly, the only thing that could get me off the couch was dinner. "Zhao Chun, is everything okay around here?" My elder sister Mu Wanting asked her, joining me on the couch. She was always swamped with company work, but she had noticed the shift. "If something is going on with Mom and Dad, you need to tell me." I didn't even look up from the screen. "Nothing's wrong. Everything is great." "Really?" Mom and Dad seemed incredibly stressed. "Is it about your school enrollment?" Since I wasn't offering details, she had to fish for answers. It had been over a month since my return. She barely knew me, so she was walking on eggshells. I finally spared her a look, though it probably wasn't the warm gaze she wanted. "Why assume it's my fault?" I asked. "Is every crisis here automatically because of me?" "No, I know you're a good kid." "Actually, I'm not," I replied, leaving her visibly exhausted. "If you want answers, ask Mom and Dad. I don't want anyone accusing me of stirring up family drama later." I turned back to the TV. My sister frowned, sensing something incredibly off about my warning. She recalled his behavior over the last couple of nights, her frown deepening. But before she could dig any further, the new year arrived. The tense atmosphere finally lifted. Muxuan recovered from his illness, though he was notably quieter. This was my very first holiday with them. Dad and Mom went all out, starting the preparations weeks in advance. The house was beautifully decorated, and the New Year's Eve menu was incredibly loud. Everything revolved around me. After all, the others had plenty of holidays. Here it was finally my turn to be celebrated. It only felt right that I got the spotlight. By New Year's Eve, the house was full of laughter, and the dark cloud of Muxuan's scandal seemed to vanish. My parents didn't treat him any differently. They had one long conversation with him, and then dropped it. It was my first time experiencing a real family holiday, and everything felt completely fresh. I found myself smiling more, and my temper even softened. I didn't even bicker with Mu Yue, which made Mom and Dad incredibly relieved and happy. Once the holidays ended, we prepared to head to the capital, where our family's roots lay and where grandmother lived. It was customary for Dad to bring his children to pay respects, lest relatives gossiped. Normally, families celebrated separately unless a special event brought everyone together. Plus, now that I was back, it was time to introduce me to the extended family. Beyond the immediate siblings, there were plenty of aunts, uncles, and cousins we've kept in touch with. On the second day of the new year, we packed up and set off. We boarded our private jet to the capital. Since it was my very first time flying, I was utterly fascinated. Pressing my face against the glass to watch the clouds, Mom found it adorable. But when Mu Yue tried to mock me, Mom shut her up with a single glare. She immediately quieted down. When we landed, our private driver picked us up and headed straight to the family's ancestral estate. During the ride, Mom gave me a crash course on the complex family dynamics. I just nodded along, keeping my thoughts to myself. When we arrived at the gates, I took a moment to study us. Having stood for over a century, the ancestral estate had been meticulously renovated over generations. It wasn't one of those gaudy European-style villas that wealthy people loved, but a traditional masterpiece. It is a traditional square courtyard house, steeped in history. My family has kept this ancestral home in perfect shape for generations. Rumor has it that a feng shui master designed the place, and before the old master passed, his will demanded that his descendants never change the address, never touch the foundation, and absolutely never sell it. Any repairs must build on what is already there, or they lose their inheritance. Because of these strict rules, the ancient estate has barely changed over the years, save for a few cosmetic touches. Looking at the layout, I can see the house truly blessed the family. A faint purple aura of fortune still hangs above it, but there is an undeniable hint of decay. The ancestral protection is fading fast. Since nobody has altered the house itself, then the descendants must be the problem. A smirk crossed my lips. This was getting interesting. Happy New Year. I greeted them as we walked in. My father's family was there, alongside my married aunt and her family. Oh, is this little Chan? I'm so sorry we couldn't visit Heishi last time. You must not blame your aunt. Mukayuxuan spotted me standing next to my mother. As a new face, I could only be the long-lost son. Hello, Auntie, I'm Mu-chan, I said, putting on my most innocent obedient act. Aunt Kayuxuan smiled, subtly sizing me up. You look just like your parents, she noted. Well, I am their son, so of course I do, I replied. Her smile stiffened for a second before she recovered. Right, of course. So, is this the cousin raised in that mountain temple? He looks so rustic, not like a wealthy young master at all. A boy about my age leaped next to Aunt Kai. His eyes locked onto me, scanning me up and down without a rudeness. There was no hiding the pure contempt in his voice. My mother's face immediately darkened. Aunt Kyakshuan quickly pulled her son back, giving him a weak scolding. Watch your mouth. I returned his look with an even more critical, disgusted gaze, scanning him from head to toe. You certainly grew up pampered by your parents, living in luxury, but looking at your manners, you seem even worse than Muj. Their expressions soured instantly. Meng Sigi turned red with rage. He never expected me to play by my own rules. Normally, people would just swallow their anger, but I fired back publicly. My mother was secretly thrilled. On the surface, however, she mimicked Aunt Kayok-shuan's weak scolding. Hey, watch your tone, I replied deadpan. I'm just copying him. I thought all wealthy young masters in the capital spoke like this. My sister Muyue was desperately holding back her laughter. Usually I was the one roasting her, so she was thrilled to see someone else take the heat. Why was she so happy watching me silence him? Although this cousin was close to Mushuan, Yue had always disliked him. Mushuan was also a pampered young master, but he was never this arrogant and selfish, acting like the world revolved around him. During childhood family gatherings, Meng Sigi didn't dare mess with our eldest sister, but he treated everyone else like his personal toys. Everyone had to let him have his way, or he would throw a massive tantrum and blame his cousins for his messes, making them take the fall. As he grew up, he learned to play the victim, which made everyone sick of him. Now, someone had finally put him in his place. My mother glared at Yue, telling her to hide her smirk. My mother then turned to Aunt Kayok-shuan with an apologetic smile. I'm so sorry, sister. Chun is great, but he's just too blunt. Don't take it to heart. She then turned to lecture me. Of course, young masters here have manners. Your cousin was joking. Don't be petty, and take it seriously. Aunt Kayok-shun was seething. What did that mean? If her son took offense, Did that make him petty? Having never been stood up to before, Monk Saigi stamped his feet and stomped off. When no one was looking, Yue whispered a quick praise. We shouldn't coddle him. I glanced at her coolly. I'm not his parent, so of course I won't coddle him. She paused, realizing I had a point. Why hadn't they stood up to him before? Aside from my aunt's family, I had little interaction with the rest of my cousins. Going just formal introductions. Uncle Mingyuan and Aunt Manchi had 3 sons. The younger 2 were close in age, while the oldest was already married to a prominent local heiress. As for Aunt Qiaxuan and her husband, they only had 1 son who was none other than Meng Si. With everyone gathered, the place was packed and incredibly lively. Grandmother's smile never faded. Zhao Zhuan, why have you lost so much weight? She asked, pulling Mu Zhuan close and furrowing her brow in concern. Mu Zhuan touched his face, about to deny it, but grandmother turned to my mother, complaining. Even if there was a birth mix-up, he has been raised here for years. You can't mistreat him just because of bloodlines. My mother's face fell. Mistreat him? How? When did they ever mistreat him? Seeing my mother's expression change, Mu Zhuan quickly explained. No, Grandma. Mom and Dad are very good to me. I just had a cold and fever recently. Winter got the best of me. They treat me incredibly well. Grandma, please don't misunderstand. If Mu Zhuan had spoken in his usual spoiled, playful tone, grandmother would have believed him. But after the incident with Wen Yimo, he had a massive knot in his heart, constantly worrying that my parents were disappointed in him. This made him overly cautious. His hasty explanation, meant to help. I actually looked suspicious to others, only making things worse. Grandmother squeezed his hand. Zhao Zhuan, don't overthink this. You are still a young master of our family, and I will say this, if anyone gives you a hard time, call me. Grandma will stand up for you. She cast a pointed look at me. I noticed it but remained completely unfazed. It wasn't surprising. Even though he wasn't biologically theirs, they had raised him for over 10 years, and those years of affection were very real. Deep bonds cannot be wiped out overnight. Blood matters, but so does history. My stance remained unchanged. As long as Mu Zhuan didn't actively mess with me, I had absolutely no interest in causing trouble or ruining his life. As for petty jealousy, what are you talking about? Nobody is bullying Zhao Zhuan, my father said, clearly displeased with grandmother's accusation. He was sick recently and hasn't fully recovered. It felt like she was subtly targeting me. If we wanted to mistreat him, why would we keep him around? That would just be inviting trouble. Mu Zhuan looked pleadingly at grandmother. Mom and Dad really are good to me. Please don't blame them. Honestly, he should be grateful just to stay. After all, he isn't the real heir. Alright, don't worry. Your grandmother just cares about you too much. She talks about you constantly, and if school wasn't starting, she'd keep you here longer. Seeing the rising tension, Aunt Manchi quickly stepped in to break the awkward silence. Grandmother let it drop and patted Mu Zhuan's head with loving eyes. Next year's your college entrance exam. Apply to Capital University, and you can live with the family here. Mu Zhuan instinctively glanced at my mother, seeking her approval. She frowned slightly. We had already discussed his exams as a family. It was entirely up to his own preferences. Still, she went along with grandmother's suggestion. Your grandmother is right. Going to school in the capital makes it easier to look after you. Mu Zhuan looked pleased, but then I noticed doubts creeping into his eyes. Was Mom truly disappointed in him? Did she want him to study in the capital just to keep him far away from home so he wouldn't be around? His mood instantly plummeted, but he dared not show it, forcing a strained smile and quickly looking down. Otherwise, who knows what everyone would think. We stayed in the capital for 2 days, and my mother planned to show me around. Since I had never been, there was plenty to see and eat. During New Year, visiting temples was a massive tradition, along with some incredibly lively temple fairs. By the 3rd day, even Uncle Mingyuan was excited, suggesting we all go together since family gatherings were so rare. The more, the merrier. Soon our entire family piled into 2 large vans and set off. Meng Sigi tagged along too, though who knew what he was planning. He dragged Mu Zhuan into Uncle's van, kicking out Uncle's youngest son. My cousin Mu Ruxu was a sweet, simple girl who wasn't good at sweet. Having grown up playing with Yue, they got along great and chatted away. I gave them a meaningful look. Birds of a feather really do flock together. Yue was a bit of a simpleton, so she got along perfectly with someone just as simple. She caught me looking and shot me a confused glance, probably wondering if I was about to get her scolded during the new year. I quickly looked away. We arrived at the capital's most famous temple, over 300 years old that had survived wars and changing dynasties, remaining miraculously well. Inside, the Grand Buddha statue had sat for 3 centuries, gazing down at the world with compassionate eyes. I stepped into the main hall without any hesitation, kneeling on a cushion with the others, closing my eyes to whisper a quiet prayer. I prayed to quickly gather enough merit to return to Wengxi City and reopen the gate of rebirth. When I finally opened my eyes and met the statue's gaze, I froze. The Buddha's eyes felt incredibly off. Was I just projecting my own guilt? I stared unblinkingly at the statue, trying to figure out if it was just me. Chun, do not stare at the Buddha like that. It is disrespectful, my mother whispered. She had finished her prayers and noticed me kneeling straight but staring far too boldly. I quickly looked away. "Mom, do you think the eyes look a bit strange?" She took a casual glance and quickly looked back with a chuckle. "What are you thinking, child? All Buddha statues look like this. There is nothing strange about it. This sacred statue has been here for over 300 years, unchanged since the temple was built. How could anything be wrong?" Remembering I grew up in a Taoist temple, she gently patted me. "Don't worry, we can visit a Taoist temple next time. I'll take you to a Taoist temple when we have time. If I weren't actually a prince of Wangzi City, I might have been amused. Though I'm not a ghost, I still belong to the underworld. We don't exactly mix with Buddhas. I should avoid these places. After all, we are not on the same path." Before getting up, I couldn't help but steal one last look. The eyes still felt off. At first glance, they seemed compassionate, but looking closer, there was a sinister vibe. It didn't feel righteous. I shook it off. Maybe I was just being paranoid. This statue has stood for 3 centuries, absorbing endless incense. Any evil should have been purified by now. My mother had visited a few times, and the scenery was indeed beautiful. Since it had snowed heavily before the new year, the temperature remained low, and the snow hadn't melted. It was perfect for viewing snow on the mountain. I was actually excited. I had never seen real snow before, or at least, I didn't think I had. I couldn't even remember how long I lived in Wangzi City. Otherwise, why wouldn't I have any memory of it? My mother watched me walk ahead, practically skipping with excitement. Shedding my usual quiet, mature demeanor, I finally looked like a normal teenager. A warm, loving smile graced her lips as she watched me with pure affection. My parents probably felt some regret deep down for missing my childhood. Meanwhile, my sisters watched me curiously. They thought I was naturally stiff and rigid, but it turns out I am still just a kid. As for why I am more mature than an adult, they didn't overthink it. Suddenly feeling some sisterly love, Mu Yue decided she should go easy on me from now on. After all, she is my 4th sister. But as we walked, she got playful. She bent down, scooped up some snow, packed it into a tight snowball, and chucked it right at my back. It hit me perfectly. I stopped in my tracks and turned around with a serious face. My other 3 sisters immediately pointed at her, proving their innocence. I narrowed my eyes at Mu Yue. Seeing her smug, defiant look, I just stared at her silently. Then, I suddenly grinned, showing my pearly white teeth. I was wearing a white knit hat with 2 fluffy pom-poms dangling down on a cute decorated brim. With that smile, my cheeks looked so chubby and soft, making me look exactly like a little grinning kitten. My sisters felt their hearts melt with a warm, fuzzy feeling, desperately wanting to pinch my cheeks. Who knew their little brother could be this cute? Compared to my usual serious self, this was pure gapmo. Not that I would let a smile ruin my cool image, but in their hearts, I left a lasting impression of adorable contrast. Even Mu Yue stared blankly, scratching her head and thinking I might be cuter than Mu Zhuan. But as she stood there, a white snowball flew straight at her. She ducked quickly, but was not fast enough. The snow smacked her right in the face. She froze in shock. Having thought she could easily dodge me, I stood with my hands on my hips, laughing triumphantly. "You dared to hit me, and now you want to run? In your dreams." On the side, Pei Zuoru pumped her fist and cheered. "Great shot. Absolutely perfect. She was asking for it. Pelta good, just don't kill her, and we're fine." "Mom, am I even your daughter?" Mu Yue cried out, utterly defeated. Pei Zuoru cast a look of pure disgust. "I wish you weren't, but unfortunately, you look too much like me to be a mistake." Mu Yue felt like her heart was breaking. "Aren't you worried my brother will hurt me?" she asked desperate. Pei Zuoru waved her hand. "If he does, that just proves you're useless. It's just a bit of snow. If you actually get hurt, it only proves you weigh too, and people will laugh at you later." Meanwhile, I packed another snowball and hurled it at her. I had been wanting to teach Mu Yue a lesson anyway. She is all high to no brains, easily swayed by others. Who knows how she'll be manipulated later. Normally I can't be bothered, but since she actively provoked me today, I wasn't holding back. Time for a lesson. Mu Yue and I went at it. At first, she thought her bigger build meant she couldn't possibly lose a snowball fight to a young boy, hoping to vent some anger. But who could have guessed reality was brutal? She was utterly dominated, running around in circles as I pelted her head. Hilariously, our 3 heartless sisters just stood by watching the show, and not one of them helped her. In a family of 8, you must be the adopted one. Suddenly a voice called, "What are you doing?" The sudden shout made Mu Yue and me stop. She secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Losing a snowball fight to a younger brother was just too embarrassing. It was Mu Xuan and Meng Si. We had all come together but split up after praying, as Meng Sigi dragged Mu Xuan away and followed him. Now, we had crossed paths again. Seeing Mu Yue looking like a total wreck, her clean clothes covered in mud and her hair like a snow-filled bird's nest, and then looking at me, completely pristine, Mu Xuan frowned. "Little Chun, why did you do this to 4th sister? Get so messy." Hearing this, Mu Yue knew things were bad and tried to explain before I spoke, but I didn't give her the chance. If you hadn't stopped us, I would have hit her even harder. Besides, she started it. She threw 1, so I treated her like a target and pelted her relentlessly. Mu Zhuan choked on his words, stammering, "Still, you shouldn't have gone this far." Mo Yue quickly tried to smooth things over. "Zhuan, I'm fine. We were just playing. It didn't hurt at all. Just got my clothes dirty. You don't need to worry." My mood completely ruined by Mu Zhuan. I tossed my snowball aside, brushed off my palms, and walked over to Peizuharu with a cold snort. "Mom, let's keep walking." Peizuharu smiled and nodded, then turned to Mu Zhuan and Meng Saigi. "Since we've met, let's walk together. It's crowded, so anything could happen." Although she worried about conflict, her eyes lingered on Mu Zhuan. I once helped a master, and he promised me a favor. I never planned to use it, but now he had to. He had to save his eldest grandson. Our group strolled around the temple peacefully and left. My parents finally relaxed. After staying in the capital for 2 days, we returned to Hash. My dad got busy arranging my school enrollment. After much discussion, they decided to send me to the same school as Mu. Though our relationship was tense, they figured being in the same class meant we could look out for each other. Honestly, they had no confidence in this plan. Given my cold personality, expecting me to bond with Mu Zhuan was highly unlikely. Yet, they went ahead with it, hoping for a miracle. Throughout the winter break, I was busy studying. My sisters tutored me, and they even hired a private teacher. Initially, everyone was unsure of my academic foundation, since I had never been to a real school, but they soon found out. Though I lacked formal schooling, the female official who raised me had taught me well. I was quick to learn and grasp concepts. My parents were absolutely thrilled and felt incredibly lucky that she had given me such a solid foundation. Thank goodness that lady was so educated and taught me so much. Otherwise, I really might have been a little. Soon, school started. Dad delayed his work to personally drive me. In the car was my anxious mom, along with Mu Yue, representing the 4 sisters. On the drive there, Mom kept lecturing and reminding me of things. I didn't mind her nagging, but Mu Yue was losing her patience. "Mom, that's enough. He's just going to school, not a battlefield," she complained, rolling her eyes in annoyance. "Plus, he is a day student and comes home every day. What could go wrong?" Mom glared at her. "Shut up, you know nothing. This school just had an incident recently. If Zhuan was not already here for his final semester, I would never let my boy study here. Come to this place." Thinking about that accident made Mom highly uncomfortable. After all, Mu Zhuan had a hand in it. She wanted to lecture him, but seeing him sit there in silence, she swallowed her words. Surely he knew he was completely in the wrong now, and wouldn't dare act so foolishly again. If she kept nagging, he might get overly sensitive. "Mom, don't worry. I won't let anyone bully me," I assured her. I knew exactly what she feared. Even if I were not a Mu, anyone targeting me would regret it. I would pay them back 100-fold. Bullies only pick on the weak. If you are meaner and tougher than them, they will fear you instead. My parents dropped me off at the school gate. Parents were not allowed inside, so they could only watch from the entrance. As Mu Zhuan and I walked inside, Mom still looked anxious. Dad wrapped an arm around her shoulder to comfort her. "Don't worry, our boy is sharp. He'll be fine, and he never lets himself get pushed around." Mom glanced at him coldly, too tired to argue. Knowing my true nature only made her more anxious about potential conflicts. As I stepped onto the campus, my eyes filled with curiosity, taking in everything. Kids in this era are incredibly lucky. Everyone gets to study in school for just a tiny fee. Such spacious, bright classrooms and clean, paved grounds. Here they don't have to fear the scorching summers or freezing winters. In the past, only Harankin nobles enjoyed decent schools, while common children faced endless struggles just to learn a few characters. Why did I think that? Had I seen a past life before? I was briefly puzzled, but finding no such memories, I assumed I had just heard it from some ghost. Mu Zhuan noticed me looking around in awe, and immediately felt a sense of superiority. He cast his eyes down to hide his deep contempt. "Chun, do you know where your classroom is? Want me to show you the way?" he asked as we reached the building. I gave him a cold glance. "No need." Mu Zhuan smiled faintly. "Suit yourself then. Your class is upstairs. Quite easy to find. Just ask a teacher if you get lost." He was actually relieved I returned right before the break, saving him from any awkward gossip. Exhaling in relief, he turned and headed off in one direction. I, however, walked the opposite way. Stopping at the back door of Class F, I looked up to confirm I had the right room, and fell silent. No wonder Dad looked so conflicted when I insisted on joining this class. "Are you the new student?" a voice asked. "Zhao Muqin, right?" The homeroom teacher of Class F hurried over. Seeing a boy standing near the back door, he paused as he remembered. I spun around instantly, studying him. Once I confirmed his identity, I gave a proper, respectful bow. "Hello, teacher." The teacher was startled by my formal greeting. "How traditional." "Muqin, I'm your homeroom teacher, Mr. Liu. Mutual most call me Da Lu, and you can too. Just come to me if you need help." I shook my head gently, looking completely serious and solemn. "You are my teacher and deserve my utmost respect. How could I address you so casually? Respecting teachers is a fundamental virtue." Da Liu was suddenly touched. In his years of teaching, he had never felt such sincere respect, but the warm feeling quickly faded as he composed himself. Class is starting. Follow me in. He stepped into the room, but the students completely ignored him, continuing their loud chatter. Da Liu was clearly used to the chaos. He raised his voice. Quiet down, everyone. Before we begin, I want to introduce a new classmate. The noisy room quieted down, and curious eyes turned toward me on the podium. Wow, a new transfer student at this point in the term. How shocking, someone whispered. Another piped up. He is actually a total hottie. Hearing their comments, Da Liu cleared his throat awkwardly. Turning to me with a gentle smile, he said, Muchen, please introduce yourself to the class. I nodded, keeping a calm expression as I looked at everyone. I am... Is that all, student Muchen? The teacher asked. I gave him a puzzled look. What else did he expect? It was indeed a brief introduction. Next was the seating. While Da Liu scanned the room, trying to decide, I scanned the room myself and walked toward an open desk. Seeing me sit down in that particular spot, both Da Liu and my classmates gaped in shock. However, beneath their surprise was a gleeful anticipation of drama. Who allowed you to sit here? A cold voice demanded. I turned to look at my new desk partner. Am I not allowed? No. I don't share desks. Liu Kaiping snapped, his face dark. If I were not a guy, he probably would have kicked me out already. Who gave me the nerve to sit here? I withdrew my gaze and said flatly. Liu Kaiping and the others stared at me, dumbfounded. Snapping out of it, he laughed in sheer disbelief, pointing at himself. Do you have any idea who I am? No, I replied. He hadn't introduced himself, so how would I know? You don't know me, yet you talk to me like that. I finally spared her a glance. If you want to fight, let's go outside, otherwise get lost. I thought about it and said seriously, actually, let's have a match. We'll fight, and if I win, you listen to me from now on. If I lose, I'll do whatever you say, deal. The classroom instantly erupted into roaring laughter. Oh my god, this is hilarious. He wants to fight Liu Kaiping. He clearly doesn't know how tough Sister Ping is. Show him who's boss, Ping. Liu Kaiping curled her lip in disdain. I don't fight boys. You wouldn't even last against one of my fingers. I offered a faint smile. Sounds to me like you're just afraid to fight. You're scared of losing, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Liu Kaiping leaped from her seat. Meluse, what a joke. Fine, since you don't know your place, I'll happily teach you a lesson. She had originally thought about letting it go because of my good looks, but I had completely crossed the line. Her glare was full of disgust, assuming I was just another guy trying to get her attention. Fine, it's a deal then, I said calmly, arranging my textbooks and sitting perfectly straight as class was about to start. Hey Juan, why isn't your new brother with you? Didn't your parents let him join this class? As soon as Mu Juan sat down, his friends crowded around to gossip. Mu Juan pursed his lips and replied, Zhao Chun went to F class. Class F. Seriously, that means his grades must be terrible. I thought your parents adored him. Why would they dump him in class F? That place is just for slackers waiting to study abroad after graduation. Most of them are younger kids or neglected heirs who don't need to inherit anything and just get allowances. Nobody cares about their grades, as long as they don't cause trouble. Since the Mu family put him in class F, I guess they don't care about him that much, huh? Exactly. He might be their biological son, but after living outside for over 10 years, who knows what he's really like, especially compared to someone carefully groomed like Zhao Zhu. Seems you're still the true young master. Mu Juan hesitated. It's just that Zhao Chun didn't do well on the entrance exam. He kept quiet about the fact that Father Mu had initially tried to pull strings to transfer me to Class A, but I had flatly refused. Father Mu is a doting parent, so of course he wouldn't force me. That's how I ended up in class. Mu Juan's friends sneered. Only Class F. That is seriously pathetic. Juan is at the top of Class A. The gap between you two is massive. Mu Juan continued. Dad explained that I did not want this either. Having lived in a temple, I had never even attended a real school. Class F was already lucky. He said if I worked hard I could transfer later. But it is the second half of the semester. Why even bother? Time to change schools after the exams. Did you say he was raised in a temple? Seriously. Hearing this juicy gossip, more classmates crowded around. There is nothing to say. Class is starting. Go back to your seats, Mu Juan urged, pushing them away. He urged them to sit down, but the more he shut down, the more curious they grew, whispering their own wild guesses. Sitting at his desk, Mu Juan kept his eyes downcast, flipping open a book with his usual quiet obedience. Then, he suddenly turned his head. He stared at the empty seat next to him. A familiar face should have been there, but it was completely vacant. Thinking of Jiang Yan, his eyes darkened. He glanced toward another desk, but flinched back instantly as if pricked by a needle. Too terrified to look again. That was when Yimo's desk. Ever since her accident, everything changed. Normally, our classes ignored each other, silently harboring mutual dislike. Class F sat at the bottom of the social ladder. No one bothered with us. But today was different. The second the bell rang, a classmate bolted back inside, shouting at the top of his lungs. Huge news. Someone in Class F is about to fight. Are you crazy? They fight every single day. That is not news. No, listen to me. The boy stomped his feet, throwing a loaded look right at Mu. Mu Xuan looked completely baffled. The boy lowered his voice, acting mysterious. Do you know who is taking on Lu Kai? He stared at Mu Xuan again. The hint was so obvious that everyone noticed. Mu Xuan's face went completely stiff. Everyone traded glances. A close friend asked, "Are you saying Mu Xuan's brother is fighting Lu Kaiping?" "No way. Lu Kaiping is a senior, and literally everyone in this school knows him. He has been a notorious legend here since middle school, but notorious in a bad way. And yes, it is Mu Chun." Someone from Class F confirmed it. They said Mu Chun actually provoked him, demanding to meet in the woods after school. The boy chuckled, looking at Mu. "Your little brother is really something. He actually dared to challenge Luke. Did he study martial arts? He must be pretty tough." Realizing the boy was not joking, Mu Xuan leaped to his feet and rushed out, furious and anxious. Was Mu Chun completely insane? Why was he picking fights with everyone? Did he think this school belonged to the Mu family? Did he expect everyone to just tolerate his wild behavior? Angrily, Mu Xuan stormed toward Class F to find him. But halfway there he stopped. He bit his lip, clenching his fists in hesitation. Stopping the fight would keep our parents from blaming him. But if he did nothing, and a fight actually broke out, it would end in disaster anyway. He did not know Lu Kaiping personally, but the Lu family was powerful. If Mu Chun crossed him, things would get ugly. He grit his teeth and turned back. Forget it, let him be. Even if he tried to stop him, Mu Chun wouldn't listen. He might even say something nasty and embarrass him. Since the fight was after school, he could wait. If Mu Chun refused to listen, he would call their eldest sister. That way, their parents couldn't blame him. Meanwhile, Class F was buzzing all morning. Da Liu heard about our challenge but dismissed it. After class, he just told Lu Kaiping not to lower himself to a freshman's level, then walked away, assuming Lu Kaiping wouldn't actually do anything. He figured Lu Kaiping wouldn't waste his energy on a transfer student. But he had no idea I was no ordinary target either. Once class ended, a massive crowd from Class F escorted us to the woods behind the school. I glanced at the spectators, then looked at Lu Kai. I wondered if I should warn him to dismiss his friends first, just to save him some embarrassment later. Everyone wants to save face. Back in Wangzi City, this happened all the time. Whenever someone lost, they would cry and beg me for justice. But what justice is there when you simply lack skill? Eventually they stopped bothering me with petty disputes. Managing affairs on behalf of my sister kept me too busy to deal with trivial nonsense. Lu Kaiping glared at me, sensing my dismissive look. "How do you want to do this?" he sneered. "If you apologize right now, I might let you off. I can be generous and cold even," he added arrogantly. He knew fighting a freshman looked bad, and winning wouldn't bring him any glory, but he couldn't just let it slide without saving face. I had to bow down. "Fight however you want," he said. "Show me what you've got." "Let's cut the small talk and start," I replied. "I need to get home early. My family's driver's probably waiting." Lu Kaiping went red with anger. Fine if I was begging for a beating. He didn't need to play nice. His rare attempt at being a gentleman had been completely thrown back in his face. Mu Xuan left the moment the bell rang. His classmates assumed he went to stop the fight. He did head toward the woods, but after one quick look from afar, he turned around and walked straight to the school gate. There, he spotted our family car. Stepping out of the driver's seat was my eldest sister, Mu Wanting. Mu Xuan's eyes lit up. He rushed over, sounding frantic. "Eldest sister, thank goodness you are here. Xiaochen is about to get into a massive fight. You have to stop him." Mu Wanting froze, wondering if she had misheard. "A fight? Did you say Xiaochen is fighting?" "Xiaoshan is fighting." Mu Xuan nodded, looking sick with worry. "He somehow crossed the class bully on his very first day. They are in the woods right now. I tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. Please hurry. What if he gets seriously hurt?" Panicked, Mu Wanting didn't ask questions. She rushed straight into the school. When the guards tried to stop her, she flashed her ID and yelled that her younger brother was in danger. Not daring to argue, the guard let her pass. Mu Xuan quickly guided her toward the woods, acting completely innocent. Deep down, Mu Xuan felt a surge of anticipation, but my sister was too worried to notice. They rushed into the woods, only to freeze dead in their tracks. The scene before them left them completely speechless. My sister stared, her jaw dropping as she questioned reality. "What are you doing in the school? It is late. Let us head home," I said, walking past them. It took my sister a long moment to snap out of it. Seeing me yards ahead, she hurried after me. Back inside the car, she finally recovered her voice, staring at me with disbelief. I looked back at her and calmly said, "I just had a quick fight. I won. No need to tell Mom and Dad, let's not worry them. What do you think?" My sister felt conflicted. How could I fight? More importantly, how did I win? "Have you trained before?" she asked. That was the only logical explanation. And yes, I had trained. In fact, I was pretty good. Back in Wangzi City, no one could beat me except my sister. Mu Wanting stared at me in silence. Just then, Mu Xuan finally caught up, gasping as he climbed into the back seat. Before he could even catch his breath, I threw a warning his way. "I do not want Mom and Dad to hear about today. We do not want them worrying, right? Muzhuan met my cold gaze and froze, instinctively looking over to Mu wanting for support, but she was still too shocked to notice him. Muzhuan had no choice but to look away, swallowing his bitter resentment. I understand. I won't tell Mom and Dad, he muttered. Since I had never mentioned my training before, my sister couldn't help but ask on the way home. Did any of you ever ask me? I replied naturally. My sister choked on her words. Suddenly, a wave of guilt washed over her. Since I returned, they had barely shown any real interest in my past. They had only worried about Muzhuan feeling neglected. They had assumed that growing up away from home made me wild, rough around the edges, and inconsiderate. They feared I would tear the family apart, but I was her biological brother. They only knew I grew up in a temple, never once asking how I survived, or how I spent those lonely months after my master passed away. Did I face dangers that forced me to learn something? When we got home, my mother Pezueru immediately asked about my first day of school. I answered her questions without leaving a single trace. She would never suspect her supposedly sweet son of fighting. Reassured, she smiled. Muzhuan desperately wanted to expose me, but he didn't dare risk it. He knew that speaking up might backfire and make him look bad. To comfort himself, he decided to let it drop. At dinner, my father suddenly spoke up. Sueru, we might have guests soon. Please make arrangements. My mother looked surprised. She had no idea anyone was visiting. Father Mu frowned slightly, looking equally puzzled. It is the matriarch of the Diwu family from the capital. The Diwu matriarch. My mother was stunned. We had never had any dealings with him. Why was she visiting? Father Mu explained. It is not exactly a social visit. She has a business in Hashi and wants to avoid hotels. Since they do not own a house here, my aunt found out and offered our place. She did not even ask us first. My mother sighed. We all know what she is after. Although the Diwu family was not a top-tier clan in the capital, their influence was immense. They were neither in politics nor business, relying instead on divination and shifting destiny. Legend says their ancestors foresaw a national crisis, turning the country's fate around to build this empire. But revealing heavenly secrets cost those ancestors their lives. Though it secured the family's peak status and reputation, every blessing has a price. Altering a nation's path is not easily paid for. Since then, their bloodline has dwindled. That once massive clan is down to 2 branches and 3 children. The direct line has only one precious heir. Even worse, that sole heir fell into tragedy a few years ago. He reportedly became a vegetable and could pass away at any moment. With their decline, their mystical gifts have also faded. Seeing such a legendary clan fall to this state is truly tragic. Yet absolutely no one dares to look down on them. They are fiercely protected by the highest authorities. That comatose heir grew up in the presidential palace, loved like a son by the leader himself. A massive reward was promised to anyone who could cure him. Even in decline, they remain far out of reach. My aunt wants to exploit this for her own gain. But why should we bear the risk? The old lady is frail. If anything happens to her under our roof, who takes the blame? If it goes well, my aunt takes the credit. We get nothing but a thankless chore. One look at my mother's face, and my father knew exactly what she was thinking. He had no desire to get involved either. He had left the capital to avoid this drama, wanting nothing more than a peaceful life where his wife and children had everything they needed. He was happy to let her enjoy her luxury spa days and international trips. He gave his sons the best education, but he wouldn't carry them forever. If they lacked talent, they could live ordinary lives. But as for me, Xiao Shen, he wanted to support me for life. I had suffered far too much in my early years, and he wanted to make it up to me. Connecting with the Diwu family could help secure my future, but he couldn't say this out loud. Do not worry, he told my mother. If we do host them, it is a powerful connection. Having more allies never hurts. My mother could only nod. If we refused, my aunt would surely pressure us through the elders. While the other kids showed interest in the news, I did not even look up, focusing entirely on my dinner as if it was some exquisite delicacy. Watching me, my father sighed inwardly. He worried I was too naive for this world. If I married into a wealthy family, I might get eaten alive. But he could not bear to see me suffer with someone ordinary either. While my father was silently worrying that I was too naive for this complicated world, I swallowed my last bite of food, completely satisfied. I looked up and met his complicated gaze. I paused, suddenly wondering if I had eaten way too much. Was he worried I would burst or eat us into bankruptcy? I had no idea he was actually stressed about my future marriage. But when I arrived at school and stepped into Class F, the roaring classroom went dead silent. Everyone pretended to be busy while sneaking glances at me. Their looks were incredibly bizarre. I walked straight to my desk without looking back. Beside me, Lu Kaiping sat with a dark face, waiting for me to humiliate him. When I just pulled out my textbook and started reading instead, he finally snapped. How are we settling this? Give me a word. I gave him a puzzled look. He slammed his desk and stood up, glaring at me. Are you playing me? The classroom went dead quiet as everyone backed away. I blinked innocently. Oh, you mean yesterday's fight? Didn't you lose? I am your boss now, so how dare you talk to me like that? I frowned, realizing I needed to lay down the law. I walked up to the podium, letting a cold, heavy pressure sweep over the room. From now on, I am the boss of Class F. If you do not like it, challenge me. Otherwise, do what you are told. Got it? Even though I beat Lu Kaiping, Class F was not convinced. Why should a new transfer student like me be the boss? Even if Lu Kaiping lost, there were plenty of others. Why should they listen to a weak boy? They thought my win was just luck or some dirty trick. Don't get cocky, newbie. We only respect Sister Ping. I raised my eyebrows slightly. Oh, so you only recognized Lu Kaiping? Did they think my mind was gone? I did not waste time arguing with them. I just stared at Lu Kaiping. Do you accept yesterday's result? If not, I cannot force you. After all, once someone loses their shame, they are truly invincible. He laughed from pure anger, glaring at me before spitting out 2 words. I accept. He was clearly plotting revenge, convinced my win was a fluke. He did not even realize how he had ended up flat on his back yesterday. He thought he was a seasoned fighter, so losing in one move seemed impossible to him. I looked at him with utter disdain. Did he really think I wanted to be the boss? Not at all. It is just being an unpaid nanny who wants to spend their mortal life doing exhausting chores. But to earn spiritual merits, I had no choice. Ending up in Class F was an accident. I was supposed to go elsewhere, but in the hallway, I noticed 2 small swirls of energy, one black and one purple. The purple energy was weak, about to be crushed by the black. Purple means a noble person, while black means deadly bad luck. This was a crisis, but it sparked my interest. Purging this evil would grant me massive merits, and the source was right inside Class F. I could not just walk away, so I joined Class F to investigate. Lu Kaiping turned out to be my lucky, yet cursed, target. Back at home, the arrival of the legendary 5th family was brought up at dinner. It was a formal notification, not a discussion. Mu Rulon and Mu Yakin were relaxed, figuring the elders would handle everything. Mu Xuan sat quietly, his mind racing with calculations. I was the only one ignoring the noise, focused entirely on stuffing my face with delicious food, which made Peizueru worry. She worried that my simple nature would get me in trouble later. How could I ignore such major news? Zhao Chun, what do you think about this? Peizueru suddenly asked. I froze mid-bite, blinking as I realized everyone was staring at me. They wanted my opinion. I had to stop chewing, swallow my food, and think, since they are coming, let us just welcome them warmly and treat them like ordinary guests. Mu Xuan scoffed, arguing that the prestigious 5th family could never be treated like regular guests. If they wanted red carpet treatment, they would have booked a luxury hotel, but they chose our home instead. Not everyone wants to be coddled or put on a pedestal. My father frowned, deep in thought, before his expression softened into a smile. He smiled and said, I was right. The 5th family does not put on airs, so basic courtesy is plenty. Overdoing it would just look like pathetic flattery. Peizueru agreed, noting that the old lady is known to be incredibly low. She hates showing off, so treating them as regular guests makes perfect sense. Otherwise, they could afford any luxury mansion they wanted. My father agreed to the plan, though he secretly wondered why they chose our home over there. Wealthy friends. He had called his sister in the capital, only to get lectured for trying to push away such a golden opportunity. What could the 5th family possibly want from us? They would not even care if we handed them our entire business. He hung up immediately. Since they had no reason to scheme against us, we decided to just go with the flow and avoid causing offense. I had no interest in extracting favors anyway. Mu Xuan was speechless that everyone agreed, viewing the whole plan as a total joke. He thought we were risking our family reputation but chose to remain silent, planning to secure his own future once they arrived. I, however, did not care about the guests at all. The old lady had nothing to do with my business. Instead of worrying about hosting, I focused on winning over Lu Kaiping. After half a month I had adapted perfectly. Modern kids are so lucky. Anyone can go to school and study as much as they want. It is a wonderful life I never experienced before. The class watched me declare myself boss, yet I sat there quietly, doing homework like a model student. We are Class F, not some study group. Where is Sister Ping? Is he going to turn us into nerds? Ji Ming Shuang cried out in pure despair. She complained that I was taking things way too far. It was one thing for me to study, but I forced them to do it too. No fighting, no skipping classes, and no ignoring homework. I even ran random quizzes, punishing anyone who got answers wrong. Is he a student or a homeroom teacher? He is more strict than the actual staff. Is he crazy? Even Lu Kaiping's face twitched. I had crushed their rebellion, and they expected me to do something wild, not turn into some legendary hall monitor. Lu Kaiping was incredibly frustrated. He could not beat me, so what choice did he have? He refused to accept defeat but feared losing face again. Realizing I was not someone to mess with, he decided to temporarily put his revenge on hold. I need to go back to the capital. We will deal with this when I return, Lu Kaiping muttered, his voice tense with frustration. Ji Ming Shuang silenced herself immediately. Everyone knew she despised going back there, as it always ruined her mood. Her pent-up anger was terrifying. Lei Qingku patted her shoulder, telling her not to carry her burdens alone. while Ji Mingshuang chimed in, reminding her they were family. Lu Kaiping just scoffed, giving them a cold, cynical look before leaving for the capital. It is not like I am marching into battle. Why the long faces? The two exchanged silent looks, remembering how she had returned last year. She had gone carelessly, only to return half dead, her body covered in horrifying, swollen, purple bruises hidden beneath her clothes. Even a light touch made her shiver. It took a month to heal, and she acted like nothing had happened. But whenever they tried to ask, her eyes would turn chillingly cold. They stopped pushing out of fear, though she smiled, appreciating their concern. Her eyes softened. All right, stop worrying. I can protect myself. I am not a child. On the third day, I noticed Lu Kaiping was missing. Realizing she was absent, I gestured for Ji Mingshuang to come over, beckoning her like a puppy. She tried to pretend she did not see me, but a sudden, icy chill made her shiver. Looking over, she saw me staring back with a frosty grin. Fearing the consequences of ignoring me, she quickly walked over. What do you want? She snapped. She sounded defensive, but did not dare challenge my gaze. Sister Ping took leave, she muttered. I rested my chin in my hand, troubled. Taking leave was a bad omen. Her fortune was dropping, and the deadly black energy was completely overpowering her purple aura. That was a terrible sign. Where did she go? What is she doing? My questioning made Ji Ming. Why are you interrogating me like a criminal? Just because you call yourself boss does not mean you own us. I stared at her, completely speechless. On day 3, I took a day off. The Mu family wanted to put on a big show, so the whole household stayed home to welcome some VIP. I did not mind if they wanted me to skip class. Fine. Little did I know, Class F was completely melting down over yesterday's events. Pule totally ignored my warning. As for me, I went to class, came home, and slept early in a great mood. But for him, the nightmare started. He woke up, tried to call out, and absolutely nothing came out. He tried to clear his throat and scream, his face turning pale. Still no voice. Feeling like he was in a dream, he clutched his throat. But his mouth opened in total silence. He panicked and rushed out, throwing the poo house into absolute chaos. Believing he was just sick, they rushed to the hospital. But the doctors found his vocal cords were completely fine, blaming it on psychological issues. But his life had been perfectly fine lately. The doctor suggested resting at home to adjust his mindset, saying it might pass in a few hours. Meanwhile, Class F was buzzing with rumors. Several of Poulet's crew had also lost their voices. Someone leaned in and whispered the shocking news directly into Ji Lingshuang's ear. Classmates crowded around to gossip. The news spread fast since my place was close to the Poo family mansion. A maid walking her dog heard that Poulet had suddenly gone completely mute. Everyone was skeptical. How could a perfectly healthy guy just lose his voice overnight? But it was true, their maids confirmed it. The doctors found nothing, blaming it on mental stress. Even weirder, his entire group of friends had skipped school today for the exact same reason. Everyone exchanged bewildered looks, not knowing what to believe. It was utterly bizarre, and nobody connected the dots except for Ji Lingshuang and Lei Qi, who suddenly remembered my warning. I punish you to 3 days of silence. Recalling my words, Ji Lingshuang broke out in goosebumps, feeling a sudden chill. This was too eerie. She whispered to Chinku, asking if it had to do with Mu-chan. It was hard not to suspect me. The timing and punishment matched perfectly. Whether it is a coincidence or not, we must never mess with him again, Lei Chinku said, shivering. He is unfathomable. If he did this, our fate will be far worse. Ji Lingshuang nodded in terrified agreement. She felt the exact same way. From that day on, the classroom atmosphere shifted completely. No one dared to make a scene anymore, and they all obediently read their books whenever I spoke. I watched with satisfaction. As long as they behaved, I had no interest in using my powers on them. While my days grew peaceful, the storm online only when Yemo's parents handed concrete evidence directly to the police, who launched a full investigation. The truth about the Moore tragedy was finally exposed, and Zhang Yan, along with the other involved students, faced severe academic punishment. They were expelled from school. The truth could no longer be covered up. Mu Zhuan was a nervous wreck at home, jumping at every sound. When the Mu family watched the news and realized Zhang Yan was tied to a fatal crime, they were filled with absolute shock and dread. Pai Zua stared at Mu Zhuan. Zhuan, tell me the truth, she demanded. Did you have a hand in what Zhang Yan did? Terrified, Mu Zhuan turned pale and fell to his knees. Mom, I swear I did not help them, he sobbed. I only watched from the sidelines. I was too scared to stop them. I really know I was wrong now. Hearing this, Father Mu and my sisters looked at him with profound disappointment. Standing by and covering up a crime was just as monstrous as committing it. With a cold face, Father Mu made his final decision. The Mu family has no room for someone like you, Father Mu declared. I will give you some money, but you must move out and live on your own. Mu Zhuan wept and begged, but nobody showed mercy. Even Mu Yiwei turned away. Though she was usually gullible, she knew right from wrong. Mu Zhuan was kicked out of the family, and the businesses faced massive boycotts, driving them to bankruptcy. Karma had finally caught up. inside my room when Yimo looked at me, the lingering resentment in her eyes completely gone. "Thank you for bringing me justice," she said. "Now that they are punished, I can finally leave in peace." I smiled and nodded. "Go, move on to your next life. You will find peace and happiness." She then dissolved into glowing starlight and vanished into the night. A rush of pure spiritual merit flooded my body, making my power surge. Life returned to its usual quiet routine. I became the undisputed anchor of Class F, leading my classmates to pull off a miracle. Even Lu Kaiping dropped his delinquent attitude and got into a great university. I truly enjoyed the warmth of my family. My parents and sisters absolutely doted on me. Though I remained sharp-tongued, they knew I had a good heart and embraced my quirks. Life in the human world is beautiful. As for being the prince of the underworld, I will worry about taking over those dark duties once I am finished living this life.